We're going to take a trip back to my childhood and talk about a franchise that I loved growing up. After the 2D era of GTA finished, the at the time graphical prowess of the PlayStation 2 meant that the top-down style of the franchise would change to a third-person perspective, and this brought about the 3D universe. That led to the HD universe, which was GTA 4, GTA 5 and will be GTA 6 too, but those are part of a different GTA universe which we'll be covering in a later video, closer to when GTA 6 releases. The games that we'll be looking at in this video will be covered in chronological order, and those are Vice City Stories, Vice City, San Andreas, Liberty City Stories, and GTA 3. The history of the 3D universe goes as follows. Scottish game developer DMA Design Limited, after developing the first game in the 2D universe, Grand Theft Auto, were acquired by Take-Two Interactive and brought in line with Rockstar Games. And at the time, one of the titles DMA Design were working on was Grand Theft Auto Online Crime World. GTA 2 was then published by Rockstar Games. Inspired by Ubisoft Reflections' 1999 game Driver, DMA Design started to develop a 3D Grand Theft Auto game. They expanded their development team and GTA 3 would release on PlayStation 2 in 2001, becoming the best-selling game of that year. The following year, DMA Design was renamed Rockstar North. The studio was planning to give GTA 3 a multiplayer feature, however this project changed into a completely new game, Vice City, and in 9 months Rockstar had managed to produce what many considered to be their absolute favourite game in the franchise, and I'm included within that contingent of the GTA fanbase. Vice City was released in 2002. Rockstar would shift their focus onto Manhunt, with Manhunt releasing in 2003, and then came San Andreas. This highly anticipated title was released in October of 2004 and sold 2.1 million copies within the first 4 days of release, along with being named Game of the Year. The three were then bundled together in the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. Rockstar North then collaborated with Rockstar Leeds, and they developed and released a prequel to GTA 3 set 3 years before the events of GTA 3 called Liberty City Stories in 2005, and a prequel to Vice City set 2 years before the events of Vice City called Vice City Stories in 2006. Both games were developed for the PlayStation Portable system but ported to PlayStation 2, but that's pretty much it in regards to the franchise's 3D universe development up to this point. We'll now jump straight in and start with the first game in this universe, Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. It's 1984. Corporal Victor, or Vic Vance, has been stationed at a US Army base in Vice City. Vic is one of 3 boys, with his brother Pete being sick, having asthma, and Vic is sending money home in order to help with Pete's medication and treatment. Anyway, his commanding officer, Sergeant Jerry Martinez, who is a smidge corrupt, gives Vic an opportunity to make some money and sends Vic to pick up a package for him. Taking Jerry's bike, Vic goes to the airport. He meets a man who takes them to a boat, hands Vic some drugs, and has Vic take out some people who are chasing them. The boat they are on catches fire and they have to jump overboard and swim back to land. A pager message from Jerry tells Vic to hide the stash under his bed in the barracks. Later, Vic tries putting across his concerns about having those drugs under his bed, but Jerry tells him to relax. He needs Vic to go and pick up some money from the docks, so Vic goes to the docks and meets a veteran named Phil Cassidy at a shooting range. Phil says that he needs to take Vic to the money. However, at Phil's place, a gang of Mexican cholos are there. The cholos are trying to take over the gun-running operations in Vice City. Vic wastes the cholos and grabs the money from inside the house. He then returns to the base. Next, Vic is called into Jerry's office as Jerry wants him to bring some entertainment back to the base as he's in the mood. Jerry says that whilst he's gone, he'll retrieve the drugs from underneath Vic's bunk. Vic meets up with Phil, who says that Martinez has provided them with a car. Despite his concern, Vic takes the car and sets out for a party on Starfish Island, picks up a girl called Mary after beating up a bunch of partygoers, and takes her back to the base. But as soon as Vic has pulled into the base, a bunch of soldiers are on him. They found the drugs under his bed, and after bringing a prostitute onto the base, Vic is then dishonorably discharged from the army. Heading to Phil's place, as he says he's got more work for Vic, Phil says that he's got something he needs done. They are on the trail of some cholos so they can send a message to stay off Phil's patch. They eventually spot one and chase him. Phil shoots at the cholo from the vehicle and kills him. Using Phil's old place as a safe house, Vic does more jobs for Phil, such as helping retrieve some boomshine, homemade spirits, before the cholos can destroy it, and he discovers that Phil is working for Jerry Martinez, so they do a job for him, which includes hijacking a gun shipment. After these jobs and earning a nice bit of cash, Phil introduces Vic to Marty Williams, Phil's brother-in-law and the leader of a street gang that call themselves the Trailer Park Mafia. After chastising Marty for verbally abusing and threatening his wife Louise, Vic does a number of jobs for Marty. Vic and Marty drive out to some stores to force them to pay protection money, and he does some repo work for Marty. However, a lot of the debts that Vic was collecting were not legit at all. He blows up some Cholo vans containing guns and helps Marty take over a brothel from the Cholos. Finally, Vic helps some of Marty's girls take out some Cholos who are attacking them. Over this time working for Marty, Vic and Louise had grown closer. Louise had left Marty due to the constant abuse and went to go live at her sister's place. So, going to Louise's sister's place after receiving a message from Louise, Vic picks her up and takes her to the trailer park where they have some fun racing quad bikes. Afterwards, Vic goes to see Louise again, and she's in tears. She says that her baby, Mary Beth's stuff, is still at Marty's place at the trailer park, so Vic takes her there to pick her things up. They're confronted by some of the trailer park mafia, and a fight ensues, with Vic and Louise taking them all out. Going to see Phil again, Martinez is there. Phil says he doesn't trust Martinez anymore, and that can only mean one thing. Martinez has them do another job for him, but surprise surprise, Martinez instead had them both marked and set up an ambush to have them killed. They survive it, and Phil says they both need to lie low. Shortly after that ordeal, Vic goes to see Louise, and her frantic sister says that Marty has taken her and is planning on forcing her to work at the brothel, so Vic needs to save her. Ramming Marty off the road, Vic kills Marty, putting an end to his terrorizing of Louise and loosening Marty's stranglehold on that part of the city. Vic then drives to another safe house. Speaking with Louise again, she says she has a plan, that Vic should seize control of Marty's criminal empire. After recruiting some local goons, they hit the late Marty's businesses and seize them one by one. Vic is now in charge. Another trip to see Louise has her reveal that in retaliation, what's left of Marty's trailer park mafia have attacked the brothel and set it on fire, putting the girls inside at risk. Stealing a fire truck, Vic manages to put out the fire, and they spot the arsonist responsible, who is Marty's cousin, so Vic takes him out. Later on, Louise has been reported to Child Services and has arranged for the welfare agent to be taken care of, something that Vic says is going to make things 100 times worse. So he gets to the thugs before they can kill the agent and warns him off instead. Whilst he was working, Vic received a pager message saying that someone was waiting for him at Escobar International Airport. So he drives over there, and whilst he's checking out a woman, someone shimmies up next to him. It's his other brother, Lance. He got fed up of being bossed around by their aunt Enid and took a trip to Vice City. Driving away from the airport, they're set upon by a group of cholos who are after some retribution against Vic. Taking them out and escaping them, the two catch up as Vic gives Lance a ride downtown and to his hotel. Vic then receives another pager message, this time from a Cuban gang leader called Humberto Rubina, who wants to meet. Humberto, who is also at war with the Cholos, is the leader of Los Cabrones, a Cuban street gang, and he used to do some work with Marty. He wants for Vic to prove that he has the balls to work with him, so he tells Vic to retrieve a package from downtown. The thing is, 3 other groups want the same package, so a race to fetch it will take place. One way or another, Vic retrieves the package and smokes the competition. Returning to Humberto, Vic is then tasked with taking out Cholos who are causing trouble around Little Havana. Vic also has to pick up Humberto's father Alberto from the stadium downtown as he's been watching the wrestling, and he needs to do so quickly as Humberto has heard that the Cholos want to go there and kill him. Picking Alberto up, he says that he needs to open his Cafe Rubina, on time, but Vic has to be careful driving him as Humberto's father has a weak heart and the slightest stressor could cause him to have a heart attack. After that's done, Humberto is desperate to finish the Cholos off once and for all. Vic and some members of Los Cabrones arrive at a Cholo warehouse and steal the supply of weapons there, leaving a giant piñata there which bears a resemblance to Humberto, and it's filled with explosives. After fighting off many Cholos, Vic escapes the warehouse and the warehouse is destroyed. With the Cholos leader dead, this leaves Humberto able to take over their businesses in Little Havana. With the Cuban business taken care of, Vic then goes to see Lance. Lance is on the phone, and after the call, Vic wants to know what it's all about. Lance is playing coy but says that he'll thank him. He says that he's found a way in so they can live the American dream. He's met what he calls a big player and that it's easy money. Heading to the burger bar nearby, they receive a call from a guy called Forbes. They are tasked with picking up Forbes' car, which apparently has drugs stashed in the car's side panels. Unfortunately, they find themselves trapped in a hold-up, but after taking out the thugs and being blamed by the police for the hold-up, and losing said police interest, they are able to continue on with what they were doing. Arriving at the docks, they use a bike to get into the Port Authority's impound lot. It seems that the car has a lot of interest, so they have a task on their hands in order to get the car out of there. They do manage it though, and Lance drives off with the car, stating that Forbes doesn't know Vic and leaves Vic there at the docks. Cutting out his brother, Vic receives a pager message from Lance stating that he's dropped off the car and to meet him at Forbes' place. Going there, Vic finds Forbes and Lance in conversation, and they're talking about stealing a van full of drugs and hope to do so without the police noticing. So Vic drives a van which is almost the same colour, and distracts the police long enough for Lance and Forbes to steal the van with the drugs. After this, Vic meets Forbes at the stadium downtown. Lance turns up and pulls a gun on Forbes, stating that he's found out that Forbes is actually an undercover DEA agent. Forbes clocks Lance and does a runner. The brothers chase Forbes and he appears to be throwing the money he owes them out of his car, and the delighted residents of Vice City are more than eager to claim it. They are eventually able to apprehend him, and they take him to an abandoned building in Little Haiti. Continuing to question Forbes about a big shipment he was expecting, he sets up a meeting with a dealer who is moored up downtown. He'll be carrying a lot of money and drugs and has no bodyguards apparently, so what could go wrong? Well, everything, apparently, as Vic and Lance go to meet up with this dealer and have been set up. It's an ambush and the dealer is part of a gang known as the Sharks. Lance is dragged onto a boat and taken onto a ship moored at the docks. Heading there, Vic takes out the gangsters, steals the drugs, and saves his brother. Having dealt with this situation, they head back to get answers from Forbes. Once again, Vic and Lance fall for it, and Forbes tells them about another contact of his who will be at the White Stallions bar. Again, it's a setup, and Vic and Lance have to escape the bar after a load of sexually angry bikers express their desire to have a go on the two. Vowing to kill Forbes after killing the bikers, they head back to the abandoned building and see Forbes escaping. They take him out and Vic takes Lance back to his hotel, with Lance stating that he'll continue to try and find out more about Forbes' big shipment. Later on, going to see Lance, Vic isn't happy as he feels that Lance's reckless nature is probably going to get them both killed at some point. Then, their cokehead mother turns up with her new boyfriend Javier. She claims that she's clean now, but Vic and Lance are not convinced. Lance says they need to go as they need to go and meet up with someone at the airport, a dealer who is trying to get out of the business and who will give them a file regarding this big shipment. Going there, they are disappointed as the guy has already sold the file to someone else. First come, first served. The dealer reveals that he sold it to a guy with a private jet and an army, and that he is at Terminal C. So going to Terminal C, Vic and Lance take out the private mercs and the buyer, along with some bikers who are also after the file, and the brothers take the file for themselves. Back at Lance's hotel, it's revealed that the shipment actually belongs to Jerry Martinez, but as he's off of Vic's Christmas card list, the brothers decide to go after the shipment. They go to the docks and team up to wipe out Martinez's men, stealing 2 trucks that contain the drugs. Martinez arrives during their escape in a Hunter helicopter and fires missiles at them. However, the Vance brothers survive and lay low at their new safe house. At their safe house, Vic calls Martinez and taunts him. However, Martinez reveals that the cocaine they stole from him actually belonged to the Mendez brothers, and as a result, they're all in Mendez's bad books. Martinez reveals that he's turning state's evidence, which means testifying as a witness and admitting guilt, and that he's going to ruin them all. After this, whilst being really mad at Lance, who in his delusion believes they can sell the coke and pay off the feds, they go to meet a buyer that Lance has lined up. Arriving at the mall, the buyer is a movie director. He's filming a horror movie in the mall and needs Vic to be a stuntman and kill some zombies. After filming a few scenes, Lance has made the deal, and they need to go and pick up the drugs. At the apartment, they see their mother has disappeared with the drugs. Lance says they simply need to explain what happened to the Mendez brothers, but a little later, he appears to be coming unstuck and says that he's made contact with the Mendez brothers, who have said they don't want to kill them. Lance then answers the phone, receiving some obviously worrying news, and he storms off. It seems that the Mendez brothers are making the Vance brothers pay one way or another and attacking their businesses. Going to assist Lance before he gets himself killed, Vic and his brother defend the businesses from the Mendez cartel goons. A pager message from Mendez states that they have mutual interests and he wants to meet. Vic and Lance go to Mendez's mansion and meet with Armando and Diego Mendez, and Armando offers them a chance to work with them, thereby earning the chance to pay off their debt. Lance tells them it was Martinez who ripped him off, and Armando tells them to prove it. They've got to come up with something fast. Lance says all they need to do is get some photos of Martinez meeting with the feds. They could claim he's an undercover cop. Lance tells Vic to meet him at the print works and to bring Forbes' ID. Vic goes to the Washington Beach police station and sees Martinez leaving with the feds, who have placed him into witness protection. Vic takes a photo of them leaving and tails them to the pier. Taking another photo of Martinez on the boat with the DEA agent, Vic collects Forbes' ID and heads to the printworks, and Lance says that he's had his guy in the printworks forge some documents that show Martinez is Agent Jerry Martinez. Hopefully this is enough to convince the Mendez brothers that Martinez is a Fed. Meeting with Armando, he asks Vic to go to Vice Point and remove some people that have been ripping him off for years. He wants a place that they can distribute their product from. So going to Vice Point, Vic takes out a load of bikers and claims the business site for the Mendez cartel. Next, Armando wants Vic to take out a bunch of drug runners as they're dealing drugs on Armando's turf. This culminates in Vic crashing a private pool party and chasing a dealer on a quad bike on the beach. Talking with Armando again sees him blackmail Vic, stating that Diego has gone and informed the authorities that the cocaine belonged to Vic and Lance. What's more is that, apparently, they have documents that show Victor being involved. Vic basically needs to steal back the drugs from the Vice City police impound. Meeting one of the cartel at the junkyard, Vic pilots a Maverick with a magnet on it. He uses it to pick up the first shipping container and drops it off at the airport's cargo bay. The second container is already on the move and Vic has to grab it off the back of the truck and drops that one at the airport too. Vic then receives a call from the guy he met at the junkyard, stating that he's in trouble and is being attacked by bikers and is in a high-speed chase. Going to get him before his car is wrecked and destroyed, Vic lifts him out of there and gets him to safety. Going to see Lance, he's acting weird and telling Vic to shush, but Vic isn't getting the message. Lance tells him that he believes their apartment has been bugged. Vic realises that the DEA have probably bugged all their businesses, so Vic rushes to destroy a bunch of antennas on top of police stations before the DEA can gather evidence. Receiving a message from someone called Renee, Vic visits the movie studio Interglobal Films and speaks with Renee. She wants Vic to do some stunt work for her, so Vic jumps into a sports car and drives through the city, smashing cars out of the way and doing various stunts. After this, Renee needs Vic to meet a friend of hers, Gonzalez. Meeting him, he requires a guard to help him deliver some drugs to Viceport. Vic pilots a chopper and hovers above Gonzalez's boat which contains the drugs. Fighting off attackers who are trying to destroy the boat, they successfully deliver the drugs. Back at the studio, Vic speaks with Barry, who is the agent of a very important client. Barry explains that he borrowed $3 million from some bloke, and that bloke, surprise surprise, wants his $3 million back, and is threatening to kill his client if he does not pay up. Going to meet the client in a bulletproof limo, the client is none other than Phil Collins. It turns out that the people Barry borrowed money off are from the Forelli crime family. They of course and quite predictably attack, trying to kill Phil. Saving Phil and Barry from the hit squad, Vic then evades chasing mobsters and drives Barry and Phil to a hotel. Going to meet with Renee again, it appears that things have escalated. Phil is due to perform at the stadium downtown and Vic needs to go check things are safe there first. Doing so, Vic finds that the Forellis are there. After taking out all the hitmen, Vic goes down to the underground and sees that they brought a huge amount of explosives to the stadium. Killing the men guarding them, Vic disarms the bomb in time. Vic then goes to meet with Gonzalez at the golf course and he says that he has a traitor within his organization. Gonzalez has strapped the guy to a target at the driving range and using explosive golf balls, Vic nails him and he blows up. Gonzalez pays Vic and leaves, but later, Vic meets with him again, and he has another problem that needs dealing with. He's botched a drug deal and doesn't want his boss or his men to find out, and needs Vic to fix it for him. Vic busts Gonzalez and says that he's clearly been cutting his boss's coke, and has been side hustling, and now it's gone tits up. Going to Ocean Beach and picking up the drugs, Vic drives to the deal, but he is ambushed. Barely conscious, Vic hears the thugs say that the drugs have gone everywhere, but that they should get what's left to a party over on Starfish Island. Vic stands up and is super high. Calling Gonzalez, Vic explains what happened to him, and Gonzalez tells him to go to that party and get the drugs back to his lockup. So Vic does just that. Arriving at the party, he starts killing all the gang members there, and just as Gonzalez demanded, Vic delivers the drugs to the lockup. Vic goes to Lance's place, and he learns from Lance that Armando Mendez wants them to find out who stole the coke, as product is still going missing. Lance then says rather unconvincingly that it was the bikers who stole it, so they fly over to take some bikers out. They then fly downtown to a construction site where they take out even more bikers. Unfortunately, their chopper is damaged, so Lance and Vic have to bail. Vic makes his way up the building in order to save Lance, and does so before Lance takes off on a bike. A short while after, Lance and Louise are getting high together, and because she is Vic's girlfriend, apparently, he's not happy that they were partying together, assuming that they were getting up to some other stuff too. Louise then storms out. Vic was also raging about the fact that it's Lance who was stealing the coke so that he could use it for himself. Lance storms off too and starts throwing drugs away, so Vic gives chase in a hovercraft, picking up any coke that Lance throws away. Once Lance has slept off his drug-fueled partying, Vic answers a phone call and it's Louise. She needs his help. Martinez has split from his Fed protection and wants payback. She's in hiding as Martinez has sent guys after her. Before she gets killed, Vic rushes over to help her out. He arrives at a burger bar and sees Louise being taken away in a car. Giving chase, there are 2 decoy cars. Vic needs to find the car with Louise in it. Once he does, he finds her badly injured, so he takes her to the hospital. At some point, Vic received another message from Renee. She told him that a man named Ricardo Diaz wishes to meet with him. Going to his mansion over on Starfish Island, Diaz informs Vic that he wants him to hit back at Gonzalez on account of him trying to move his product without paying him. He wants them to steal the product. So Vic takes his cokehead brother with him, and they head to stake out a strip club as Lance thinks that's where Gonzalez's men will be. And after a short while staking out the club, they tail one of the men. He jumps onto a jet ski, so Vic does the same, following him to a small group of houses located in Ocean Bay. So Vic eliminates any witnesses, steals a speedboat, where after being chased, he is able to get the speedboat and the product back to Diaz's mansion. After doing this, Diaz reveals to Vic that he's playing both sides. He's making a deal with the DEA. He's going to give them the drugs Vic stole from Gonzalez, and in return, they're going to supply Diaz with guns. However, he's cutting the coke and keeping some for himself to sell. Vic is to go and deliver the coke to the DEA. However, Gonzalez isn't going to take this lying down and his men show up. Taking out all Gonzalez's men, the DEA arrive, and the deal is made, and Vic is able to get the guns back to Diaz's mansion despite Gonzalez's men's best efforts to stop him. Checking in with Diaz, he's in the middle of speaking to Gonzalez about loyalty. He wants him to take the guns to a colonel by the name of Juan Cortez. This is who Gonzalez's boss is. Diaz wants him to do this as a way of giving Gonzalez an out, therefore keeping him under his control, as Colonel Cortez wouldn't be too happy knowing that Gonzalez has been doing deals behind his back. He also demands that Gonzalez spy on Cortez, reporting back to him in regard to any future drug shipments. Vic is next tasked with delivering Gonzalez to the airport, protecting him via chopper, where he is to board a plane and return to his boss. Gonzalez does get pursued and attacked on the way and at the airport, but Gonzalez is eventually able to leave the city. Now returning to the Mendez mansion, Diego and Armando tell both Vic and Lance they've now got their money and they are free. One condition though, they have to give them all their assets and leave Vice City. It's safe to say that Vic and Lance aren't having that. Armando tells them they are very lucky they aren't dead. The brothers are then attacked by the Mendez brothers' men and are taken to a fuel depot near to the airport where Mendez's men mean to kill them. This goes wrong though, and Vic and Lance, who gets trapped behind some flames requiring Vic's help, are able to shoot their way out into safety before the place blows up, afterwards going their separate ways. Having survived this attempt on their lives, Vic spends some time growing his business empire, so he's powerful enough to take on the Mendez cartel. Whilst doing so, he learns from Lance that Martinez has called, telling him that he's going to pay Louise a visit in the hospital, so Vic needs to get there quickly and pick her up. She's okay, thankfully, but Lance messages him saying that he's trapped in a burning building and tells him to bring a helicopter. Stealing the helicopter from the hospital's helipad, Vic and Louise fly over to see what kind of trouble Lance has gotten himself into. Essentially, he tried to do a deal with Martinez on his own. Landing on the roof of the building, Lance says that Martinez set them up. He had purposely split them up as he knew that Vic would go and save Louise, and Lance would be silly enough to try and do a deal on his own. Martinez's goons have taken their money and have headed out to sea. Vic does the flying and Lance does the shooting, and together they're able to kill all Martinez's men. Lance then drops down onto the boat and recovers the money Martinez's men had nicked. Vic then drops Louise home. After building up a small empire by taking over various businesses and establishing the Vance crime family, Vic goes to Diaz's mansion again and walks in just after he and Lance have made a deal, in which Diaz is to lend Lance some money, and Lance has even offered 25% interest on top of it per week, or they will work for him. Lance is drunk and Vic is furious that Lance has borrowed the money and made a deal behind his back. Diaz asks them to go and do something for him, something that drunken Lance agreed with Diaz, and that is to destroy all of Mendez's bearer bonds, which are securely locked away in his safe in his mansion. Lance passes out on the sofa though, so Vic must do this alone. Outside Diaz's mansion, one of Vic's guys tells him that there's going to be some gear that the Mendez duo had ordered that he can use in order to achieve this. So getting into a van that is parked outside of Mendez's place, he uses a remote control robot to seek out and destroy the bearer bonds. Mendez destroys the robot, but the job is done. After this, Vic receives a message from Renee. Going to the studios, Renee says that Mendez is angry that she had introduced Vic to Diaz, calling it an act of disloyalty. Mendez wants Renee dead, so Renee leaves and Vic kills any of Mendez's men that show up there. Unfortunately, Renee got caught somewhere near the Malibu Club in Vice Point, so making his way over there, he helps Renee by killing what remains of Mendez's guys. They're then pursued in their vehicle, but eventually they're able to get to safety with Vic dropping Renee off at the hospital. Visiting Renee in the hospital later on, Phil Collins is there and soon to take to the stage. After dropping Renee off at the airport as she's going to head to Europe, Vic heads on over to the Hyman Memorial Stadium. Phil is about to perform, and Barry approaches Vic, telling him that he's scared Giorgio Forelli is going to attempt to take out Phil. Vic checks out the potential threat and finds someone trying to sabotage the lighting rig. Fighting them, Vic manages to incapacitate those that wish to do harm to Phil, and he manages to complete his performance incident-free. Afterwards, Barry says he's going to pay the Forellis the money he owes them, and Phil thanks Vic for his help. Going to his dear brother's place as Louise is there, Vic finds her sister Mary Jo there instead, and she is hysterical, stating that Louise has been kidnapped by Armando Mendez and is being held hostage at their mansion. Outside the apartment, Lance's car is destroyed by Mendez's men, and Vic and Lance go after them. Having to defend Lance on occasion, they're able to make it to the Mendez mansion, and Lance foolishly and recklessly storms the place. Gaining entry himself, Vic is confronted by Armando, who tells him that Louise and Lance are both dead. Armando then tries to cook Vic alive by way of a flamethrower, leading to Vic taking Armando down for good. He finds Lance upstairs, out cold, but also finds Louise dying as she's been shot. She asks Vic to make sure her child is taken care of by Mary Jo, and she dies. Lance tries to soften this blow by telling his brother that Louise wasn't right for him, and Vic walks off. Exiting the mansion, Diaz messages Vic, telling him he's got just the way to smoke the other Mendez brother out. Going to meet him at his mansion, Diaz says that the Mendez have a compound located downtown, but that entering it would be an act of suicide, so Diaz has a plan. The army has just taken delivery of new attack helicopters. Vic says that he'll sneak into the base and steal a chopper in order to attack Diego Mendez from the air instead of the ground. Going to see Phil Cassidy, Vic finds him blind drunk. He offers his services as a decoy though, so driving to Fort Baxter and either sneaking or fighting his way through it, Vic is able to steal an attack chopper from the base. Flying it back to Diaz's mansion, Vic gets a message from Martinez, who says that it's time for them to settle this. Heading inside Diaz's mansion, Martinez can wait, as it's time to leave for the Mendez's compound. So Vic flies the attack chopper there and unleashes hell on the building, taking out a bunch of Mendez's men until the chopper is destroyed by a rocket. Making his way through the building, wiping out more goons, Vic spots Diego, who flees to one of the higher floors. Following him up to the roof, he is confronted by Jerry Martinez. He wants to settle the score, and Vic is happy to oblige. Diego Mendez is there and overhears Martinez mugging him off. Vic ends up taking them both out. Lance then shows up late and in a Maverick, and he and Vic celebrate their troubles being over. Vic says they should get out of town and lay low for a bit first though. Lance says that he's gotten hold of more drugs to sell, and Vic isn't happy, telling him to get rid of them, but Lance wants to sit on them for a bit. Nonetheless, they both leave. Two years later in 1986, at Marco's Bistro in Liberty City, head of the Forelli crime family, Sonny Forelli, is talking with a couple of his men about a former member of their mafia, Tommy Vercetti. He's been doing a long stretch in prison, 15 years, and is about to be released. Sonny obviously sees Tommy as some sort of threat, so he's going to arrange for him to be kept busy out of town for a bit. He has an idea that Tommy could help the Forellis expand business down south, more specifically in Vice City. Despite none of the other crime families wanting to touch drugs, Sonny states that times are changing, and the drug trade is becoming too lucrative to ignore. They mention their contact is a guy by the name of Ken Rosenberg, a lawyer. So sending Tommy to Vice City, he arrives and jumps into a car with Ken Rosenberg, along with two of the Forellis' men, Harry and Lee. Arriving at the drug deal, which happens to be between the Forellis and the Vance crime family, Vic greets them, considerably heavier than he was 2 years prior. Lance is in the chopper watching over his brother, but as they're about to do the deal, a group of shady men dressed in black emerge and open fire on the deal. Vic is caught in the crossfire and is killed, and Lance leaves, Harry and Lee are killed, and Rosenberg drives Tommy away from there, being forced to leave both the cash and the coke behind. At Rosenberg's office, Tommy tells him to get some sleep while he goes to check into his hotel, where he rings Sonny to tell him the bad news. Safe to say he's not happy, both that his money and the drugs are gone. He tells Tommy in no uncertain terms he's to get his money back, or he'll be paying a visit to the South Coast himself. The following morning, Tommy goes to see Ken, and he claims he's not slept, and that he's been up all night, terrified that someone's going to kill him. Tommy tells him to calm down and that they need to find out who took the coke and kill them. Ken tells him about a retired colonel who, of course, is Colonel Cortez, the guy who Gonzalez was working for. He's hosting a party on his yacht, and all the big players from Vice City are to be in attendance. So with Ken too scared to go outside, Tommy takes the invite and dons a swanky suit, making his way over to the bay on a stolen bike. At the party, the Colonel introduces himself. He mentions the unfortunate set of circumstances, one that he has already started inquiring about. For the meantime, though, Tommy is to entertain the Colonel's daughter, Mercedes. She points out the various high-flying individuals of Vice City, including politicians, adult movie stars, and rock stars. Gonzalez is there too, chilling and relaxing. And the loudmouth Diaz then shows up, and Mercedes wants to leave, so Tommy takes her to the pole position strip club, where they say their goodbyes. After this, Tommy heads back to check on Ken Rosenberg and tells him they need a lead from the streets themselves. He mentions a guy named Kent Paul, who is always at the Malibu Club in Vice Point. He'll probably know where the coke is. He acts cocky at first, but when threatened with violence, Kent spills that there's a chef down on Ocean Drive who's been dealing out of his kitchen. Tracking down the chef, he's not going to tell Tommy anything, so things get physical, and Tommy beats him unconscious, picking up the chef's cell phone. Who should show up other than Lance Vance? He references both the money and the coke, but Tommy is in no way interested in working together. A bunch of chefs show up, so they both get out of there. Once they've gotten to safety and after buying a gun to protect himself, Lance tells Tommy that he'll be in touch after he's dug up more information. At some point, someone calls the chef's phone, revealed to be called Leo, and it's someone saying that they have a buyer for Diaz's merchandise. This is a solid lead, but it goes no further, as the guy on the other end of the line panics and hangs up. Ken is once again freaking out, as the Forellis have been on the phone about the stolen money, saying they'll come down there if they don't get it back. To postpone their planned trip south, they, or Tommy, has to do something for them. Sonny's cousin Giorgio is about to get 5 years for fraud, so the jury needs convincing to give Giorgio a favourable verdict, as Ken's previous attempts as their lawyer had failed. After convincing the jury to back off, Tommy goes back to Ken's office and meets a real estate developer called Avery Carrington. He's got a proposition for Tommy. A delivery company has its depot sat on a prime piece of land that Avery wants, and they will not sell. Luckily, there's a workers' strike going on, so after sparking a riot, keeping security busy, Tommy causes a load of damage to the depot after blowing up their delivery trucks, likely meaning that they'll have to sell the land now. Afterwards, Tommy goes to follow up with Avery Carrington. He gives him some golden knowledge about the property industry, and he needs someone to be silenced because he wants his land. So visiting the golf course, Tommy gets rid of the guy. Once again, he visits Avery at Shady Acres, and he's got another problem. A large development is in the way of what Avery envisions for that particular piece of land, so Tommy needs to do some demolition work. Jumping into a van nearby, he flies a number of RC copters into the building, each of them dealing significant structural damage to it. Avery's out of town for a bit, so Tommy needs to pursue other leads. At some point, Tommy will get a call from Cortez promising him that he's going to find out what happened with the business deal. He tells him to meet him on his yacht whenever he gets the chance. Visiting the Colonel, he's basically found out now that Gonzalez has been blabbing to Diaz, and he wants Tommy to deal with him. Armed with a chainsaw, Tommy pays Gonzalez a visit at his penthouse. He flees, but Tommy chases him down and kills him. Losing the police, Tommy returns to Cortez, and he's happy about the fact that Gonzalez is gone. Tommy is getting a bit irritated about where the money is, as Cortez now needs something else handling. He needs to meet a French courier who has some valuable technology for him. So going to the mall, he makes contact with a SWAT team there, claiming that the tech belongs to the French government, and a shootout takes place. The courier flees, forcing Tommy to go after him, and after grabbing the tech, he delivers it to Cortez. Speaking with him again, he says that Ricardo Diaz has asked him to oversee a deal, so after getting tooled up and having Lance tag along, they watch over the meet with the Cubans. Lo and behold, the meet is attacked by the Haitians, who want both the money and the drugs for themselves. Holding them off, one of the Haitians manages to snag the money, so Tommy gives chase on a bike and retrieves the money for Diaz, returning it to him. He later gets a call from Diaz, telling him to visit him at his mansion. Driving over to the mansion, Tommy finds Diaz there kicking lumps out of his TV because he lost money on a horse. He says that someone has betrayed him and is stealing from him, and he wants this person dead. So Tommy goes to the thief's apartment, but looking inside, there's no one there. He spots the thief, who books it, and after a chase across the rooftops and via vehicle, Tommy follows him to a mansion which is now abandoned and in disrepair. The mansion is next door to the mansion that used to belong to the Mendez brothers. Reporting this information back to Diaz, he introduces Quentin. It's Lance Vance. He says that Lance will fly Tommy over the mansion where the thief ran to, and Tommy is to eradicate the gang he's with. Lance says he's there because he's been asking around and he thinks it was Diaz who attacked their deal and killed Vic. Tommy tells Lance that he will handle Diaz as he's beginning to trust him. Anyway, flying over to the abandoned mansion, Tommy uses the gun on board the chopper to obliterate this gang. Touching down on the roof, he moves through the mansion and takes out any stragglers. Retrieving the money that was stolen from Diaz, they return to his mansion. And after this, he gets an urgent call from Cortez, and he sounds very concerned. He needs Tommy's help and asks him to come to his yacht. Arriving, it's a similar story to what Lance said, as the Colonel seems to suspect that it was Diaz who attacked the deal. Tommy is now getting pretty annoyed at Cortez, as now it seems like it's one thing after another that he needs help with. Nonetheless, Tommy agrees to help. He has a buyer for a piece of military hardware and it needs picking up. Problem is that it's being taken through town by the military, so this is a dangerous task. The piece of hardware is a tank, but Tommy is able to find some way to steal it and gets it to a lockup before it's able to self-destruct. Avery Carrington is also back in town now, so Tommy pays him a visit, and he has someone with him, his protege, Donald Love, who is fervently taking notes on whatever Avery says. He's keen to learn, this one. Anyway, Avery needs Tommy's help to bring down property prices in Vice City, and the only way to do that effectively right now is to kick off a good old-fashioned gang war. Tommy has to go to turf that is controlled by the Cuban street gang in Little Havana. He goes over to Little Haiti, the territory controlled by the Haitian street gang, whilst dressed as a Cuban gang member, and starts shooting outside a funeral parlour where the Haitians are, as they are burying fellow gang members. Just as Avery had hoped, this escalates into a full-blown gang war. Mission accomplished. Tommy then receives another call from the guy from before, who was looking for Leo, the chef. He says that Tommy must have big cojones if he managed to kill Leo, so he offers him some work. In the meantime, heading over to check in with Diaz, it seems he wants Tommy to do more useless stuff for him. He owns the fastest boat on the East Coast, and wants it to stay that way, so Tommy needs to go to the boatyard where a Costa Rican bloke apparently has built a boat that is faster than his. So Tommy heads out and steals it, delivering it back to Diaz's mansion. Speaking with Diaz once again, he says that someone has come into town, a freelancer, and he moors his boat and sells his product to the first one there. This is where Diaz's new, fastest boat comes in. Going to board the speedboat, Lance is there on the jetty waiting for him. Lance says that they will be better working together. Whilst they race the other boats to the freelancer, Lance asks why they can't just go after Diaz now, as they know that it was him that busted their deal. Tommy says they need to learn all they can now, so there's less to learn when they take over the entire city. Lance likes the sound of that. They obtain the product and naturally they find themselves under attack, so Tommy fires from the boat while Lance drives it. A short time later, Lance is getting antsy again. He thinks they need to go after Diaz now, but as Tommy doesn't think the time is right yet, he once again convinces him to back off. Needing to unwind, Tommy goes to the Malibu Club and is immediately approached by Kent Paul. He says that he's heard Diaz has got Lance after he tried to kill him. Demanding to know where Lance has been taken, Kent says that he was taken to the junkyard across town. Rushing over there before he gets killed, Tommy shoots his way through Diaz's men and rescues Lance. After telling him that his stupidity ruined his plan and that they're now going to have to take out Diaz before he kills them first, Tommy drives Lance over to the hospital, telling him that once he's gotten patched up to meet him on the bridge to Starfish Island. Meeting Lance a bit later on, they begin their assault on Diaz's mansion. Shooting their way through Diaz's goons and inside his mansion, they encounter him going all Tony Montana, but Tommy is eventually able to kill him. Vic Vance has now been avenged. After, Tommy takes ownership of Diaz's property. Ken Rosenberg pays a visit along with Lance and Avery Carrington, and Tommy tells them the time to take over Vice City is now. Avery says that Tommy needs a legitimate front, such as real estate, whereas Lance believes that they need to start taking over territory and recruiting some muscle. Local businesses are apparently refusing to pay protection now that they know Diaz is dead, so that is a problem that needs dealing with. Tommy goes to the mall and deals a lot of damage there so that the store owners think twice about not paying him protection money. Tommy can also fill his time with other activities such as hanging out with the glam rockers Love Fist. This involves providing them entertainment by way of Cortez's daughter Mercedes and providing them with drugs. But they also require security for their upcoming show in Vice City, as they have a crazy stalker who tries to kill the band by way of a bomb in their limo, which they manage to defuse in the end. The security comes in the form of a biker gang run by Big Mitch Baker, after Tommy helps his biker gang and helps him get his stolen bike back. But anyway, after a kick-ass concert, it's back to business. In the meantime, Cortez has called and is in trouble with the French and needs to leave Vice City. Getting there, he says the tech he stole is French missile technology, so it's no wonder they want it back. Attempting to leave, as expected, the French attack, but Tommy, along with the ship's crew, are able to hold them off long enough for the Colonel's ship to make it out to sea, and Tommy is given a speedboat, which he uses to return to land. Returning home to the Vassetti mansion, he gets a call from Kent Paul, saying that he has heard Tommy's been a bit of a naughty boy, and they should watch his back, as a price has been put on his head. Shrugging this warning off, Tommy heads into the mansion's bar and finds Lance there drinking, along with some men. He says that some bar is refusing to pay their protection money as they claim they are protected by a local gang instead. Lance says he'll handle it, but Tommy flips out on him, telling him that he doesn't look like he's doing anything about it. Going to handle it himself along with a couple of guys, he goes to the bar to find out which gang is protecting them. Taking out the security, he speaks with the owner. He says that DBP Security are the firm that are protecting them. The owner doesn't really care who protects his business, telling them to sort it out amongst themselves. Taking them out, including their stragglers, the front page bar is now under the protection of the Vassetti crime family. As expected, Lance calls Tommy after this and says he doesn't like or appreciate how Tommy spoke to him in front of the guys. Lance tells Tommy not to treat him like a fool. It's clear that things are getting a bit tense in the newly formed Vassetti crime family. Sometime later though, Lance is shouting at one of their men, calling him a moron. Tommy asks what's happening and it appears that this guy, Mike, messed up a bunch of bombs at the mall. The place will now be swarming with cops, so Tommy tells them they'll need some cop uniforms and a cop car. So, causing some chaos on the streets, they lure some cops to a garage, knock them out, steal their uniforms and their car, going over to the shopping mall. Inside, they reactivate the bombs in the cafe and make a swift exit. Back at the mansion again, and with the Vassetti protection ring established, Lance is once again not happy and tells Tommy over the phone that he's got to look after him better and give him what he calls a fair slice. He says people have always patronised him, which he says is what Vic used to do to him. With some time on his hands, Tommy can go and see the man who called his phone and who was looking for Leo. It's none other than Cuban gang boss Humberto Rubina. After having to prove himself to Humberto that he has big cojones, Tommy helps him with his gang war against the Haitians. He is also contacted by the Haitians, who themselves want help in what they've got going on too. Tommy can end up playing both sides and helping them in their fight with the Cubans. But after taking part in stupid gang wars and buying up businesses, Ken makes contact after Tommy has purchased a specific business, the Printworks, which Tommy uses to produce counterfeit cash. Going there to find out what happened, he finds the guy who runs it for him injured, and he says that some guys roughed him up, wanting a Mr. Forello's money. Tommy now knows that Sonny's repeated threats to visit Vice City have now come to pass. They'll be attacking Tommy's various businesses across the city, so after tracking them all down and killing Sonny's guys, Tommy goes back to the mansion.
What's going on?
Tommy! Oh, good. Listen. I like fish. I love fish. I love them as pets in bowls, or as food on a plate, but as much as I love them, I don't want to sleep with them, okay? But right now, your Italian brothers are coming from up there to fit me with some cement shoes, and I...
Shut up, Ken! Sit down. Lance, what the hell's going on?
It's your friends up north, Tommy. They ain't too happy you capped their man. They're coming down to see the business today.
They took longer than I thought. Guys, we gotta make this final. We gotta leave no doubt that this is my operation. Mine! Ken, you get the first run of counterfeit cash and put 20 mil in briefcases. Lance, you get the guys together.
Tommy! What? No big hugs for your old buddy?
I've had 15 years out of the loop. I'm a bit rusty on family etiquette.
Oh, he's angry, huh, Tommy? Didn't I say your temper would get you into trouble, huh?
There's 3 mil in the cases.
How many was it, 10? No, 11 men. That's how you get to be called the Howard Butcher.
You sent me to kill one man. One man! They knew I was coming, Sonny.
Tommy, watch your tone. Anyone would think you blame me for that unfortunate set of circumstances.
Just take the money.
Get the damn cash. You know, Tommy, I did what I could for you. I pulled strings, called in favors. I was your friend, Tommy. I hoped you'd see sense, see what's good for business. I trusted you, Tommy, and you disappointed me. But at least someone in your chicken shit organization knows how to do business. Isn't that right, Lance?
Sorry, Tommy, this is Vice City. This is business.
You sold us out.
No, I sold you out, Tommy. I sold you out. The real cash is upstairs in the safe.
So, Tommy, what was the big plan? You think I just take the fake cash, save face, and run away with my tail between my legs?
No. I just wanted to piss you off before I kill you.
Defending his empire along with killing Sonny's men, Tommy goes up to the rooftop where he's able to confront Lance, eventually killing him. Heading back downstairs, he finally puts an end to the nuisance that is Sonny Forelli. Ken emerges, relieved that Tommy is alive. He tells Ken that this could be the beginning of a beautiful business relationship. Tommy is the new king of Vice City. 1992, San Andreas, which is located on the west coast of the United States. Carl Johnson, or CJ, is headed home to San Andreas. He's been living in Liberty City after the death of his brother Brian, but his older brother Sweet has called him as their mother has passed away. Taking a cab to the family home, the cab is pulled over by a group of cops. They tell CJ to get out of the car. Doing so, he is robbed of his cash by the corrupt cops, and he is told by the cop who seems to be in charge, called Officer Tenpenny, who knows Carl, to get into their car. Tenpenny pulls out a gun, saying that it was used to gun down a police officer not 10 minutes ago, and it's pretty clear they're going to put the murder onto CJ. They're going to use that to get him to do what they want. They then throw him out of the car in the middle of what's called baller territory. CJ used to run in a gang called the Grove Street Families, sworn enemies of the Ballers. Stealing a bicycle, CJ hopes to avoid hostile Ballers and makes it to Grove Street, home. Entering his mother's house where he and his siblings grew up, Carl starts grieving his deceased mother. Someone comes into the house thinking CJ is a thief, but the guy is called Big Smoke, one of CJ's close friends and a member of the Grove Street family. He's delighted to see CJ, and they go to the cemetery to see CJ's brother, Sweet. Getting there, it's pretty frosty between CJ and Sweet, but their sister Kendall is pleased to see her brother. It gets heated as Sweet thinks CJ abandoned the family by moving away to Liberty City. Now Kendall at this point has had enough and walks off, going to see her boyfriend Caesar, who is part of another gang that Grove Street are beefing with. Sweet points out all the Grove Street gang members that had been killed while CJ was gone. Heading home though, their car is destroyed in a Baller's drive-by, and using bikes, they try to get out of Baller's turf while being shot at. Sweet says they used to run this turf, but with a family they don't run with anymore. Arriving home back at Grove Street, CJ goes and gets some sleep. Feeling refreshed again, CJ goes to see his neighbour and his other close friend Ryder. He is tooled up and says that a pizza place keeps painting over their gang tag. Another reason for the trip is that CJ needs to get a haircut. So he goes and sees the old barber Reese, who gives CJ a trim. Eating some food at the pizzeria, Ryder puts some tights over his face, a flimsy disguise that the owner of the pizzeria immediately sees through, and he chases CJ and Ryder out of the pizzeria armed with a shotgun. Retreating to Grove Street, CJ goes to see Sweet, who's been going on about the graffiti. He says that he and CJ should go out and tag up the hood. It seems that Sweet is gradually warming up to his brother being back home again. They spray over Baller tags with their own. They even venture into Baller territory, which results in some heat from both the Ballers and the police, but CJ and Sweet are able to get back home. Speaking with Sweet again a bit later, he says that crack cocaine is taking over the hood and they need to clean it up. CJ goes with Ryder so they can speak to someone they call B-Dup and Big Bear. Unfortunately, they find that Big Bear is now a prisoner to crack cocaine. B-Dup appears to be his dealer, and he, basically, has Big Bear do things for him in exchange for crack, such as cleaning his toilet and keeping his house clean. Failing to get them to come back to the Grove Street families, CJ and Ryder drive around the hood until they spot a crack dealer, dealing to one of the family gang members. They beat the dealer, and Ryder recognizes him as someone that used to run with the Ballers. They go to a crack den in Idlewood and kill the Ballers inside. They then return home to Grove Street. But later on, Big Smoke and the lads are hungry, so they drive to Cluck and Bell in order to grab some food. On the way, they talk about how CJ, Sweet and Kendall's mum died. Big Smoke says that someone saw a green saber doing the rounds before it sped away, and that they think whoever carried out the shooting was actually going for Sweet. They then order their food.
Hey, I'll take a number 9, fat boy.
Give me a number 9, just like his. Let me get a number 6 with extra dip.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
Hey, sorry, bruh. You know I gotta know about mine.
I know, CJ, I know. I'm just trying not to think about it, is all. I didn't even know she was hit until it was all over.
Yeah, right. Let's eat.
Hey, don't we got beef around here? We've been getting into it with these fools.
I can't stand cold food. Unlike you, I ain't never ate from a trash can.
Oh, shit. Trash can bitch.
Pass me my food. Hey, look. Kilo Trey scoping us out. Damn, Ryder, you a jinx.
Shit, them motherfuckers headed to the hood.
Drive-by!
They're able to kill the Ballers before they can make it to the hood, and after giving Big Smoke a lift home to his place in Idlewood, CJ goes home to lay low for a bit. Sometime later, CJ is told that the Grove Street families currently don't have any weapons, and they need some now that their beef with the Ballers is heating up again. So CJ and Big Smoke go to see an old guy called Emmett, who is a member of Seville Boulevard families and who sells illegal weapons. He knew CJ's mother and offers his condolences to her passing. After some target practice and after dropping Big Smoke off at home, CJ goes to Binko to make himself look more like one of the Grove Street family's gang members by wearing the gang-affiliated colours. After getting some rest, CJ goes to Sweet's place and finds that no one is home. Outside though, he receives a phone call from Sweet and he's in trouble. He and his girl are pinned down at her place by the Seville Boulevard families who are trying to kill him. Remember, they used to be a part of the Grove Street families themselves and wear the same gang colours. Getting there, CJ takes out Sweet's attackers and drives he and his girl back to his place. Sweet tells CJ that he's going to try and bring the families back together, as green-on-green violence is not acceptable and has to end, as it's killing the family. Again, a short time later, CJ goes to Sweet's house and finds him having a row with their sister Kendall over her boyfriend Caesar. Sweet tells CJ to follow Kendall to a car club hosted by Caesar's gang. He's the leader of a street gang called Varios Los Aztecas. Obtaining a lowrider with hydraulics, CJ shows up at the meet. Entering one of the competitions where CJ is to bounce the car's hydraulics to the beat of the music, he wins and Kendall runs over, delighted. Caesar introduces himself and hugs Kendall, which CJ takes exception to. Things get heated when one of the Aztecas tries to start a fight with CJ, but Caesar calms things down. CJ accepts Caesar as Kendall's boyfriend. Things end on good terms and CJ heads back home. Checking in with Ryder, he's furiously digging through his backyard trying to find something he'd hidden. He's trying to find drugs so he can get prepared for a home invasion. He wants to steal a bunch of hardware from the house of a Vietnam War veteran named Colonel Furberger. So driving a truck over there, CJ needs to sneak into the house and steal as much as he is able to before sunrise. Driving the truck over to a warehouse, Ryder tells CJ that if he wants to carry out any more home invasions in the future, then he can. Visiting Ryder again later, CJ enters his house to find him cooking drugs. Officer Tenpenny shows up with Officers Pulaski and Hernandez. Tenpenny asks what's cooking and asks where his is, and Ryder gives him a bottle. Tenpenny gets to business and tells Ryder and CJ about a train scheduled to make a stop just down the way, and on it is ammunition. Going to the train, they find out that the Ballers and another gang, the Vargos, are trying to rob it too. Killing them, CJ jumps on board ready to unload it and the train starts moving. He throws crates off of the train and to Ryder in his car, and once it's loaded up, they both make their way back to Grove Street after losing the police. Later on, Ryder is getting high in his backyard. After Ryder is done talking about how big of a genius he is because he's worked out the army have lots of guns, he and CJ head over to the docks and break into an army base, stealing some weapons and successfully escaping while fending off the pursuing military. Going to see Big Smoke next, him and Sweet emerge from around the side of the house. They're in conversation about someone called Jeffrey, and that he's probably been someone's bitch for the last couple of weeks. Sweet tells CJ they need to go and pick up this Jeffrey, as he's getting out of prison today, so they drive over to do so. On the way, Big Smoke tells CJ that Jeffrey now demands that he goes by the name OG Loke. Meeting him, calling him Jeffrey enrages him, with him kicking off about his name being OG Loke now. Instead of trying to get his life together, he wants to go after some guy who was dissing him in prison and apparently stole his rhymes. Driving over to some house, this guy, Freddy, emerges and tells Loke that he dropped the soap before jumping on a bike and fleeing. Chasing Freddy through the alleyways, they catch up to him at a basketball court, and after a shootout with the Vargos gang, they kill Freddy, with Loke having gotten his revenge. After, CJ drops Loke off at a burger shot in Marina and he heads back home. Gonna see Smoke again, CJ arrives to find officers Tenpenny and Pulaski there. Smoke is there and emerges from the house, saying that they won't leave him alone. They say that his cousin is coming into town from Mexico and they need to go pick her up. This is code. Driving over to a meet at Marbel del Rancho, Smoke spots two Vargos gang members and he asks them for marijuana. They mug him off in Spanish and walk off, so Big Smoke attacks one of them with a baseball bat while CJ chases down and kills the other one. After spotting Tenpenny and Pulaski at Big Smoke's place again, he and CJ then go to crash a meeting between the Vargos and another street gang called the San Fierro Reefer. The train starts moving, so jumping on a bike, CJ drives while Smoke shoots the Vargos on top of the train. Having killed them all, they head back to Los Santos. Later on, they take a ride downtown, and on the way, Big Smoke tells CJ that a lot is about to go down, and it involves Russians. Big Smoke heads into the atrium, and he tells CJ to come in blasting if he hears things popping off. Sure enough, he hears things popping off, and goes to help Big Smoke. Taking out all of the Russians there, they escape the atrium and jump on a bike whilst their pursuers give chase and try to take them out. This culminates in a chase through the old sewer tunnels, which results in them losing their pursuers. CJ then goes to see Loke at the Burger Shot. CJ finds it absolutely hilarious that Loke is working at the Burger Shot, in stark contrast to his gangster rapper image that he likes to portray. Anyway, Loke is putting together a listening party for his new album, but he needs to get a sound system first, and he's seen one at a beach party nearby. CJ gets to the party and befriends and flirts with the woman, the DJ who owns the van containing the sound system, leading to her inviting him into the van and CJ steals it. After this, CJ visits Loke again, and he wants him to steal something else for him. There's a famous rapper who lives in Vinewood, in the rich area of Los Santos, and it's a rapper by the name of Mad Dog. Luke wants Mad Dog's rhyme book. So CJ goes to Mad Dog's mansion, sneaks through, and steals the book, taking it back to OG Loke. But Loke has another problem. He's still not able to get a record deal. Also, it seems that Mad Dog's manager, Alan Crawford, doesn't like Loke all that much and is trying to block him from getting into the music industry. So Loke needs him gone. He'll be attending an award ceremony, so CJ steals a car from one of Crawford's drivers and shows up, picking up Crawford and driving the car off of the pier, killing him. After ripping off Mad Dog's work and now Crawford is out of the picture, Loke got a deal and is now ready for his album listening party. Later, despite Loke's listening party going well, one of the Grove Street guys gets there and frantically says that some ballers are about to roll up. They defend Grove Street against waves of ballers, eventually being able to push them back. The following morning, having received a call from Officer Tenpenny, CJ meets him, Pulaski, and Hernandez at a donut shop. Tenpenny says that CJ needs to get to work in order to earn his freedom. So Pulaski gives CJ the address of a gangster they don't like and they want him dead. Tenpenny left some Molotovs in an alleyway, and after grabbing them, CJ burns the guy's house down with him in it. He then has to save a damsel in distress called Denise, as she was in the burning house, and CJ takes her home with her telling him to call her sometime. Going back to speak with Tenpenny, he wants CJ to do something else for them. He says that he likes the status quo, and that one tribe gaining advantage over the other troubles him. He says that the ballers appear to be making friends and are tooling up for more than just drive-bys. He says that since the fall of the Berlin Wall, lots of cheap guns are making their way into America. Tenpenny tells CJ to go and check out a freight warehouse in the Docklands, and he'll see what he means. Sure enough, getting to this warehouse, CJ finds that the ballers and the Russians are doing an arms deal. CJ kills the Russian arms dealer, meaning that the ballers and their attempts to tool up are put on hold for now. With his duty to the police done for now, CJ receives a call from Sweet, who tells him a former Grove Street family's member has defected to the ballers. So taking a small gang with him, CJ guns him down in Glen Park, baller territory, thereafter claiming control of this turf. But the action doesn't stop. The ballers need to be hit, hard. They're attending a funeral for one of their members, Little Weasel. So Sweet and CJ assault the funeral, and in the process they manage to take out Kane, the leader of this group of ballers who go by the name the Front Yard Ballers. After that, Sweet wants to arrange a meetup between all the Grove Street families at a motel in order to reunite them. This is both the Temple Drive and the Seville Boulevard families. So they go to the motel, but getting there, they're ambushed by the police. Sweet is inside at this point and Big Smoke and Ryder want to flee, but CJ refuses as his brother is in danger, so CJ goes inside the motel and saves Sweet. On the rooftop they have to take out a chopper and are picked up by Big Smoke and Ryder. They end up in a car chase with the police and this ends up with Sweet's car being destroyed. They all then split up and agree to meet up later on. Meeting up later on, Sweet wants to go after the ballers again. He needs everyone to meet him downtown, but outside Sweet's place, CJ gets a call from Caesar and it sounds very urgent as he wants to meet, telling CJ that he would not believe what he's seeing if he told him, and that he needs to see it for himself. So, CJ goes to meet Caesar.
So you dragged me way across town to see what?
Just in time, ese. Take a good hard look over there.
So, some ballers hanging around a dope spot. So what?
Just watch, homie.
What the fuck? Oh, no. Shit, Smoke, what you into?
Shh, that's it. Look at that ride.
That's the motherfucking green Saber. Shit, Smoke. Crash making you sell us out? Moms!
Sorry, ese. I heard a rumor and poked around. I didn't believe it myself, but...
Nah, you did the right thing. I owe you, C's. I gotta go tell Sweet about... Oh, fuck! Sweet! Look, go get Kendall and take her to a safe place.
What you thinking?
It's Sweet. I think him and the homies is walking into a trap. Just go. Go!
Desperate to get to Sweet before he's killed, CJ and what's left of the Grove Street family's guys take out the ballers. Sweet is injured and bleeding and needs to get to a hospital, but the police show up and CJ is detained by Tenpenny, Pulaski, and Hernandez. They've driven him out to the countryside and tell CJ that Sweet is in a prison hospital and that he's being treated for gunshot wounds and awaiting trial. They want more favors doing, telling CJ that if he does them for them, he won't get arrested like his brother. Tenpenny tells CJ to stay away from Big Smoke and away from them, otherwise Sweet will find himself on a prison wing full of ballers. Pulaski hands CJ a camera and tells him that someone who is a former friend of theirs, also a cop who disagreed with Tenpenny's methods and has info on him, is hiding up on Mount Chiliad under FBI protection. CJ is to kill him and obtain evidence of the man's demise. So getting to him, and after a chase around the mountains, the guy is killed, and CJ gets the evidence and delivers it to a trailer in Angel Pine. After doing this, CJ receives a call from Caesar, who tells him he sent some backup out there to protect him, his cousin. He tells CJ to meet his cousin at a diner in Red County. CJ is also called by Sweet from prison, telling him that he's got to try and do something to get him out of there. With him headed to the diner, CJ meets Catalina, Caesar's cousin. His warning regarding her being intense was spot on. Catalina says they're going to take this county for every cent. She's identified 4 places they're going to hit. So CJ and Catalina do 1 out of 4 jobs, such as stealing a fuel tanker full of gas and selling it. At one point during all this, CJ gets a mysterious phone call from someone calling himself the Truth. He refers to the cop that CJ has apparently killed and indicates that they have a mutual friend, Tenpenny. Meeting up with the Truth at a motel room in Angel Pine, CJ enters the room to find Tenpenny in there getting high. He says that Truth is going to be supplying CJ with some of the finest weed, and CJ is going to deliver it for them. He also tells CJ there's another friend of his that is trying to get him and Officer Pulaski into a lot of trouble, and that he'll need help with that very soon. He leaves and tells CJ to pay for the weed he used, and the Truth tells CJ that he needs a harvester stolen from a farm in another county. So fighting off the farmers and stealing their harvester, he delivers it back to the Truth's farm. Caesar calls and says that his gang, the Aztecas, are now done, and there's a price on his head thanks to what's been going on in Los Santos, and that he and Kendall need somewhere to lay low, so CJ recommends they get a trailer in Angel Pine. Meeting up with them, CJ has to talk Caesar out of going back to Los Santos and doing something stupid. He says they already know who the bad guys are, Big Smoke, Ryder, and Tenpenny. He says that Big Smoke is a dope pusher, but CJ refuses to believe that Smoke is into the drug game. Kendall points out Big Smoke's house and questions how he afforded it. Caesar says that Smoke sends a car to San Fierro once a week, and the trunk is loaded with coke. So CJ says that he'll keep an eye out on the highway to San Fierro. He tells Caesar and Kendall to lay low for now. And leaving the trailer, Catalina calls and she is angry. Heading to see her before she goes scorched earth, Catalina gets the jump on CJ, leading to him begging for his life. She only backs off when CJ tells that he's going to treat her rough and take her to places that she can rob, where she can kill whoever she likes. She responds by telling CJ that she thinks she loves him.
Shit, that's great. Cool. Yeah, fantastic. Shit, all that. You wanna go rob some shit, baby?
So they head over to another of the 4 jobs, such as robbing a betting shop in the small town of Montgomery. After this, CJ is tortured by Catalina during a lovemaking session, and they go to rob her next target, a liquor store in the town of Blueberry. Scoping it out though, some rednecks show up and rob it first, so CJ and Catalina chase them down on a quad bike and kill them, taking the money from them. With one last job on the list, CJ goes to see Catalina again, and she's very aggressive, but that's nothing out of the ordinary. She's essentially dumped CJ, saying that all they are to each other now are business partners. CJ is secretly delighted. They then drive out to Palomino Creek. Getting there, they rob a small town bank. CJ is to keep the staff under control, but this ultimately proves impossible as one of them activates the alarm. Catalina has the money, and she and CJ make a quick getaway after shooting their way to safety. Back at her place, she berates CJ and tells him goodbye, giving him his share of the score. Later on, heading to that race that Caesar told him about, a man dressed in black approaches them, and he knows that they are new there. Asking where they are from, he introduces himself as a Woozy Moo, but asks that CJ call him Woozy. He says that they race for cash or pink slips, and tells CJ to get his car started. Taking part in the race, CJ places first. After the race, Woozy tells CJ that he drives with style, and tells him if he ever finds himself in San Fierro to give him a call, then maybe they can do some business. With the police arriving, everyone splits. At a later race, Catalina is there and starts hitting CJ's car with a crowbar, whilst calling him all sorts of names, saying that she loved him all along. She says that it's too late now though, as she doesn't really love him anymore. She's got a new plaything, and she introduces him as her new man, asking if he's jealous. She wants to race, and after CJ places first, again, she's even more angry now. She then says that not only was her new man racing, but he was also pleasing her at the same time. She hands over not cash or pink slips, but the deed to a garage in San Fierro, which CJ isn't too happy with, as the agreement was cash or the pink slip. She says that she and her lover, Claude, need the car as they're going to Liberty City, and they then leave. After, the Truth calls CJ and tells him that he needs some help at his little green village, which is a code for his weed farm. He thinks that people are listening to their conversation. Anyway, going to Truth's ganja farm, CJ looks inside the mothership, Truth's van, and sees there's about 2 tons of weed in there. They're about to go to San Fierro, but Truth hears the unmistakable sound of a police chopper. He hands CJ a flamethrower and they get to work in burning all the weed left there before the cops are able to arrive. Once they're all burnt and destroyed, CJ and the Truth leave the farm in the mothership and drive over to San Fierro where they check out CJ's newly acquired garage. Caesar and Kendall arrive and CJ is not happy with what he's been left with. The others see the positives, especially Kendall, who says he'll help turn it into something, a working garage. They need some good mechanics, and Truth says he knows some people. They go to pick up a guy called Jethro from a gas station, Wayne, who is working at a hot dog van, and Zero, who has his own shop and is a genius when it comes to electronics. CJ introduces his new staff to everyone else, and Kendall suggests they get into property. Fix it up, sell it, or turn the property into a business. CJ is not too happy to hear the voice of Officer Tenpenny on the phone, asking him how San Fierro is. He reminds CJ of the person that he needs dealt with, and this involves the act of planting drugs and framing the guy. So CJ poses as a valet and waits for the guy, takes his car to the garage, has the weed planted in the car, takes it back to the garage and calls Wee-Tip. Sure enough, the police show up fast and arrest the guy. He is, or rather was, a DA, and it's safe to say that the threat against Tenpenny has gone away, for now. With the garage up and running now, Kendall comes in and tells CJ that the builders on the site to the rear of the garage have been calling her a hooker. So CJ goes to deal with them. Destroying their site and scaring them off, the foreman hides in the can, and CJ buries it in concrete with him still inside it. Won't be hearing from them again. Caesar calls after this saying that his cousin, not Crazy Catalina, called him and gave him a tip about a baller's car heading to San Fierro to pick up coke. Needing to know who is supplying them, CJ drives out to the Mulholland intersection to meet with Caesar. Getting there, they both drive to Whetstone. Watching over a potential meeting spot with a camera, who should turn up other than Ryder, as well as a guy called T-Bone Mendez. Some other guy shows up too, dressed in a suit as well as a pimp. Snapping photos of all of them, Caesar arranges to meet CJ back at the garage. Later on, CJ is there as well as Woozy, whose guy there tells him that the men in the photos are members of a drug-dealing gang who call themselves the Loco Syndicate. The guy in the suit runs it, but they don't know his name. T-Bone Mendez is the muscle, and the pimp is a guy known as Jizzy B. He sets up the drug deals, and CJ says that Jizzy is his way to the syndicate. Woozy says that Jizzy runs a club called the Pleasure Domes. Going to Jizzy's club, CJ offers his services to him. Luckily, Jizzy has something needs doing. He says some lunatic has been stepping all over his business. This lunatic has killed 2 of his girls already, so he has CJ drop off a girl downtown and then has him kill a rival pimp. CJ then gets a call from Jizzy about one of his girls being attacked. Rescuing the girl, CJ gets another call from Jizzy, who says that the girl he dropped downtown is now wanting to leave his employ, so he wants the girl, her sugar daddy, and his protection out of the way. After doing this, Jizzy calls to say the car now has an APB out on it, so CJ dumps it. Having now somewhat gained the trust of Jizzy, CJ goes to his club and finds T-Bone there, who was having an argument with Jizzy over his cut. T-Bone gets a call and it appears that a van carrying a shipment of drugs has been ambushed and hijacked by a group of bikers. Heading out to where the van got ambushed, they find them disappearing with the stuff, so CJ is able to jump on a bike and gives chase, collecting all the packages that were stolen. Returning the packages to the club, CJ now finds out the name of the guy in the suit. His name is Mike Torino. According to a call that T-Bone received, Mike is in trouble. They, and Mike, don't know where he is, so they keep him on the phone with him describing what he's hearing so the others are able to pinpoint it to areas in the city. After following his trail, they track him to the airport. Taking out the goons who took him, they're able to free him, but he's not too happy to see CJ as he doesn't know who he is. Torino says they need to torch the truck. Doing so, they get out of there before the cops show up. In the car on the way back to Jizzy's, Torino keeps asking CJ questions about who he is, and he takes CJ's ID, noting his name. Back at Jizzy's now, Torino tells CJ that he did good. Sometime later, CJ gets a call from Jizzy who tells him that his associates need some assistance, and he thought of him. He tells CJ to meet T-Bone Mendez at a gas station near to the docks in Easter Basin. Meeting up with T-Bone, he tells CJ that he's a snake and demands to know who he's working for. T-Bone claims that this was all a big joke, and Torino shows up. They drive out to the location of a van, and CJ is to go ahead of the van and take out any roadblocks in its path. After this is done, the van is able to get to its destination where it hands off its cargo. Taking up Woozy on his invitation to talk business, CJ arrives at his betting shop. His security guy warns CJ about the boss's curse and says that Woozy is blind. CJ is dumbfounded as they were racing cars the previous week. He's apparently blessed with unbelievable good fortune. Speaking with Woozy and testing out his blindness, he tells CJ that he's the Die-Die-Low of the Triad, which means he commands his own crew within the Triad, and it's his responsibility to bring an end to any disputes that could damage any potential or important business without violence. His crew are called the Mountain Cloud Boys. CJ goes with Woozy to a meeting with the Tongs, who missed a Triad meeting. He also says that a small-time Vietnamese gang called the Da Nang Boys have been causing a bit of trouble lately, with Woozy getting nervous about the whole situation. Arriving at the meeting, they find a gate that should be locked, and they stumble upon a terrible sight as the triads there, the Bloodfeathers, are all dead. A sole survivor tells Woozy that the Da Nang Boys launched a surprise attack on them, and more of them show up, so CJ protects Woozy and kills them all. They manage to get rid of any pursuers and return to Woozy's shop. A bit later on, CJ stops by again, and there's another triad leader there by the name of Ran Fa Li, who runs the Red Gecko Tong. They've heard from Kowloon that the Da Nang Boys are preparing to move to the US, and this explains their attack on the Bloodfeathers. Ran Fa Li would like a package retrieved from the airport that a courier left in the car. It's a very important package, apparently. Arriving at the car park, CJ grabs the package, but inevitably the Da Nang Boys show up and try to stop him from leaving, pursuing him. But CJ is able to deliver the package to Woozy's garage. Returning to his place, Woozy then suggests they need to lure the Da Nang Boys somewhere as they are sat watching the place and will likely attempt an assassination the moment they step outside. CJ agrees and says that if they think Ran Fa Li is in the car, they'll follow him anywhere. Ran Fa Li says that CJ's success will be rewarded, so CJ drives a decoy car out to the countryside. As is to be expected, the Da Nang Boys take the bait. Leading them to a secluded place, he calls Woozy's bodyguard, who says that Ran Fa Li got out safely. The Da Nang Boys then realise that CJ was just a decoy driver, and they head back over to Chinatown. Returning to Woozy, he wants CJ to plant a bug on a boat in the harbour. Woozy then tells CJ of his curse.
I'm blind.
No shit!
Yeah. Although I've trained my other senses to a point where you wouldn't notice my handicap, in the water, they'd be quite useless.
Alright, Woozy, relax. Don't beat yourself up about it. Look, I'll do it. One last thing. You do know that I'm black, right? And not Chinese.
I'm blind, Carl, not stupid.
CJ agrees to go and do the job Woozy needs doing, so going down to the docks and going for a dip, he swims over to the boat, avoiding patrol boats, makes his way across the deck and inside the ship where he plants the device. After it's been done, he goes back to Woozy and he's happy, as he feels he'll soon be able to seal his place in the Red Gecko Tong. But things are about to kick off as the Da Nang Boys' leader, who's known as the Snakehead, has shown up in San Fierro. The Snakehead, along with his Da Nang Boys, will be arriving on a container ship. One of his guys, Little Lion, has gone to check it out, and CJ says that he will sort this out for Woozy. Meeting up with Little Lion, who has gotten a hold of a helicopter, they do a couple of flybys of the ship, and CJ is more than happy to unleash using a minigun. Unfortunately, their chopper is shot down, and all CJ is armed with now is a knife. Taking out as many of the Da Nang Boys as he can, quietly, CJ is able to get to the Snakehead on the bridge. Sending him into eternal retirement after a katana fight, CJ helps the Vietnamese refugees out, who thank him before leaving on a dinghy. But now Officer Tenpenny is demanding more attention, and has turned up in San Fierro with Pulaski, who is wasting no time in taunting CJ about Sweet's shower daddy in prison. Surprise, surprise, they have gotten yet more people poking their noses into their illicit affairs. There's a young journalist trying to make a name for himself, so as you probably guessed, he needs shutting up, along with another reporter that he's due to meet down at the harbour in Los Santos. Grabbing a sniper rifle Tenpenny hid at the construction site behind the garage, all CJ has to do is follow the damn train and the reporter, where he gets off it. Eventually, CJ is able to take them both out. Back at his garage in San Fierro, CJ is desperately checking the boot of a car in his garage for something. On Caesar showing up, he asks him what's wrong. He says that Woozy left a message to say that he needs to kill Jizzy B and obtain his phone in order to find out the location of a meet. CJ needs a silencer, so Caesar gives him his. Going over to the pleasure domes, CJ breaks inside via the skylight and confronts Jizzy. But instead of CJ just getting the job done, Jizzy manages to run off. Chasing him down, CJ is able to kill him and grabs his phone, discovering the location of where the meet is to take place. CJ calls Caesar and tells him to meet him at Pier 69, where they will take down the Loco Syndicate. Meeting him later, he says that T-Bone's security team has gotten there already and have men on the rooftops watching over the location. Woozy's boys call and tell him they're in place. CJ takes out all of T-Bone's guys on the rooftops so the triads can move in. T-Bone shows up along with Ryder, who is with the ballers. Mike Torino then shows up to the meet in a chopper, but bails when he sees the dead bodies of T-Bone's guys on the roof. Everyone scatters, but CJ manages to kill T-Bone. Ryder flees on a boat, but CJ chases him down and kills him. But there's one more element that needs removing from the equation, and that is Mike Torino. A bit later on, Woozy calls CJ and tells him that Torino has been spotted downtown. Woozy is under the impression that Torino is going to take some merchandise out by helicopter, and says they've started loading boxes. Sure enough, Torino has some guys there, guarding the helipad, but CJ goes there and shoots the chopper down. With the Loco Syndicate destroyed, CJ is pretty cut up about Ryder, that he betrayed the families all because of money. Caesar tells CJ that Ryder once tried to hit on Kendall, which eases the grief of Ryder's passing a little bit. Woozy shows up and tells CJ that the Loco Syndicate had a crack factory that needs destroying, and by doing so the Loco Syndicate will be out of business for good. Woozy has arranged for a car full of explosives to be left somewhere, and using that, CJ drives into the crack factory, parks it, and yaka boom boom, the crack factory is no more, and the Loco Syndicate are officially done. Not long after this, a mysterious person calls CJ and tells him that he has some information in relation to Sweet. He tells CJ to come to his ranch in Tierra Robada in Bone County, otherwise bad things will happen to Sweet in prison, so CJ heads out there. Met by the mysterious man's voice, CJ is instructed to impress the guy by completing a time trial whilst driving a monster truck. Doing this, he later receives yet another call from the man, who tells him to go to the ranch again. Waiting there, CJ is approached by the mysterious man, revealed to be a still-alive Mike Torino, who was not in the chopper CJ destroyed. Torino says he works for a government agency, but does not wish to elaborate on which one that is. He says he needs CJ to do things that he, Torino himself, cannot get caught doing. The first job is to steal a trailer that is headed out to San Fierro, but it's a two-man job, so CJ has Caesar help him out. Caesar is nervous about the job, but they're able to take the truck after Caesar hops onto it whilst it's moving. They then take the truck back to CJ's garage. Going to and speaking with Torino again, he speaks about Sweet and his being in prison, along with the illegal activities of Officers Tenpenny and Pulaski, along with the murder of that police officer they're trying to pin on CJ. He says that it was Tenpenny and Pulaski who killed Officer Pendlebury, after he threatened to tell others of their corrupt activities. He shows CJ a place on the map, and once he's there, he has to go to a drop zone, destroy a few choppers and secure a package, then delivering it to a hideout. The other job Torino needs doing is a simple but expensive one. He wants CJ to go and buy an airstrip in Verdant Meadows, Bone County, near to Las Venturas, so CJ goes over there to purchase it. Torino calls CJ and tells him to learn how to fly. Thankfully, the airfield has a flying school attached to it, so he takes his Torino-mandated flying lessons. After passing with flying colours, Woozy calls and tells CJ he has a business proposition, and for him to visit the Four Dragons Casino in Las Venturas. Going to see Woozy, he says that the Mafia are trying to squeeze him, since casinos on the Strip are kind of their thing. There are 3 Mafia families here in Las Venturas, with each of them having a stake in Caligula's, another casino on the Strip. These are the Leone, Sindaco, and Forelli crime families, the latter of which we're all too familiar with. A whacked-out lawyer is running things for them, and we can only guess who that lawyer could be. Anyway, Woozy says that he will give CJ a share in the casino in exchange for his help, and CJ agrees. One of the triads runs into the room and tells Woozy that they found some men trying their best to smash up one of their deliveries. They've caught one of them, and Woozy says to get rid of him, but CJ offers another solution. He tells Woozy's guy to tie this man to the front of a car, and he'll deal with him. So CJ drives around Las Venturas, scaring the bejesus out of the guy until he squeals. He tells CJ that he works for the Sindacos. Taking him back to the casino with knowledge that it's the Sindacos that are trying to sabotage their casino, the triads have CJ steal some dynamite from a quarry in the desert. This is so they can push the Mafia out of the Strip by bankrupting Caligula's, a heist. Sometime later, CJ is playing cards with Woozy, and his bodyguard brings in 2 casino chips, and Woozy instantly knows one is fake. He reveals that he guessed as he sensed the worry in the voice of his bodyguard. CJ looks and sees a difference between the fake and real chips. Woozy is fuming. The Sindacos have been producing fake chips and circulating them in the Four Dragons Casino. Woozy wants CJ to go and blow up the plastics factory where the chips are being produced. CJ doesn't exactly blow the place up, but he does destroy the chip-making equipment there. With this having been taken care of, the Truth calls CJ and says that he's been on a peyote safari with some people and they got separated. He says they're in a place called Arco del Oeste and asks CJ to go and see if they're alright. Trekking over there, CJ finds 2 men. One of them is Kent Paul, who is now the manager of a band. Also, there is fellow Englishman Macca. Macca's band, the Gurning Chimps, had made their way to San Andreas to get noticed. Anyway, Paul tells CJ that he's got a pal, Rosie, who has a casino thing in Las Venturas. Obviously, that is Ken Rosenberg, so CJ gives them a ride. First to a snake farm, as they vaguely remember they left Macca's bandmates there. They aren't too pleased to see Macca and Paul, and they point guns at both them and CJ. CJ then takes the pair back to Caligula's. Going to see Rosenberg, he is characteristically neurotic, as each of the 3 Mafia families are currently putting pressure on him. Kent asks CJ to give them some space, and says that he'll call him later. Outside Caligula's, CJ calls Woozy and tells him that he's got a way to scope out Caligula's and not cause any suspicion, telling him they'll talk later. In order to get their heist started, CJ has to go and get the blueprints to Caligula's from the city planning department. Taking a camera with him, CJ finds the room containing the blueprints is under guard, so he starts a fire in one of the rooms in the building, causing an evacuation. Things get a bit hairy after he's got the photo of the blueprints though, and he has to shoot his way out of the city planning department, and he escapes the police. Going to see Woozie again in their secret planning room, he gives Woozie the rundown of the place. Woozie's bodyguard brings in a security card reader sent out by Zero, but all they need to do now is get a Caligula security card. Going to the casino, CJ waits for one of the female croupiers to leave the casino. He follows her to a sex shop where CJ overhears a phone conversation, where it's revealed that she is due to meet a man for sex at her place. So CJ dons a gimp suit, waits outside her house for the real gimp, Benny, to show up, gets rid of him, and CJ meets her instead. She introduces herself as Millie, but CJ will need to take her on dates before she will agree to give her keycard to him for the heist. So CJ gets to know Millie and gets closer to her. She leaves the security keycard for CJ eventually, meaning that they're one step closer to the Caligula heist. Their other steps are to shut off the city's power supply, which will give them cover of darkness at the time they're robbing the safe. CJ does this by planting remote charges on the generators at the Sherman Dam, and also to steal 4 police bikes and load them onto a moving truck, and to steal an armoured truck to transport their loot. The bikes are to make it look as if the police are escorting the truck. The heist is set, but this must wait for now. Going to see Kent Paul, Macca and Rosenberg, there's a situation brewing. Rosenberg's going on about how successful he was 5 years or so ago, but he couldn't lay off the coke, part of the reason why Tommy Vassetti cut ties with him, and Rosenberg had to go to rehab. When he came out of rehab, he started to represent the mob in Liberty City, ending up there in order to run their casino interests. Since the 3 mafia families don't trust one another, Rosie is the middleman, and he's paranoid that one family is going to kill him so they can blame the other one. The Sindacos are on the warpath, and it involves Johnny Sindaco, who is the guy CJ had tied to the front of the car. He's in a shock-induced coma, and the Forelli family are the ones plotting to kidnap Johnny and kill him. If any hit between the 3 families succeeds, then it's Rosenberg who's going to pay for it, and CJ realizes that if Johnny wakes up and remembers what happened before, then he's in for it. Anyhow, CJ goes to the hospital, but it appears that an ambulance just picked Johnny up, and CJ realizes that this means the Mafia have gotten to him already. Tracking down the ambulance, CJ smashes it up a bit, kills the driver, and delivers Johnny to a meat factory where a couple of the Sindaco guys take him inside. Going to see Rosenberg again, he's now a bit calmer. So calm that he's relapsed and is back on the blow again. He tells CJ that he needs to take back control of things, and CJ drives him over to the Sindaco meat factory. Demanding to speak to Johnny Sindaco, he's bought out, and one look at CJ causes Johnny to have a heart attack, and he dies. The Sindacos then realise that it was CJ that messed Johnny up, and both CJ and Rosie, whose only real use is fighting fire, have to fight their way out of the abattoir. But with all the Sindaco witnesses dead, they both return to Caligula's. And afterwards, thanks to CJ's help and as promised, Woozie has CJ, along with Ran Farley, sign a document that gives them part ownership of the Four Dragons Casino. A frantic call comes in from Ken Rosenberg though. The Don of the Leone crime family, Don Salvatore Leone, is in Las Venturas and is taking over Caligula's. He says they're screwed, as there is now a war going on for control of Las Venturas. So going over to Caligula's, Salvatore Leone is there and is chatting up one of the waitresses in the casino, a girl by the name of Maria. She leaves and CJ walks in, and CJ says that he worked for Salvatore's son, Joey, as he was stealing cars for him in Liberty City. Salvatore warms to CJ, knowing that he's an acquaintance of his boy. He says that the Forellis are sending over a hit squad to kill him, and he says their flight will be landing in Las Venturas soon. He asks CJ to make sure they die. Rosenberg goes to get up, but his weight is the only thing preventing Kent, Paul and Macca from plunging to their deaths. Going to the airport, CJ does what Salvatore asked of him, and he grabs a small plane, jumps from that plane to the Forelli's jet, and eliminates the Forelli hit squad, ensuring Sal's safety, for now at least. Whilst back on the strip though, CJ sees a commotion and spots someone who is threatening to jump to his death. To CJ's surprise, it's Mad Dog. Ever since OG Loke stole his rhyme book that Mad Dog thinks just went missing and CJ murked his manager, his life and his career has gone downhill and he's been drinking. CJ jumps into a nearby truck full of boxes and catches Mad Dog after he falls. Taking him over to the rehab clinic, he tells Mad Dog to get himself sorted out and they can get him back into the studio. Mad Dog thanks CJ and heads into rehab. Driving out to a place called Prickle Pine, CJ meets Tenpenny. He's pretty miffed, and he and Pulaski are having a barbecue. Tenpenny speaks of how he is now dangerously close to being investigated for his actions, as well as Pulaski, and he says that when a person steps on him, he's got to step on CJ. CJ throws them a remark and gets a gut punch as payment. Tenpenny tells CJ of a ruin out west. there is a DEA officer who is meeting with an FBI agent, and the FBI agent has a dossier. Putting it quite simply, Tenpenny wants CJ to go and get the dossier and to make these two problems go away. So CJ drives out there and does what Tenpenny wants. His service to them is not done yet though, as Tenpenny calls him to inform him of a ghost town in the desert. He is to go there and meet them to give them the dossier. Arriving and handing over the dossier, Tenpenny smacks Hernandez with a shovel, saying that he snitched on them and sold them out. CJ is then handed the shovel, told to dig, and Officer Tenpenny leaves much to the annoyance of Pulaski, who has to stay there. Pulaski then forces CJ to dig his and Hernandez's graves. And CJ tries to get Pulaski to realise that Tenpenny is using him, just like he uses everyone else. Hernandez isn't dead and rises to his feet, tries to attack Pulaski but gets shot. Now he's dead. Pulaski runs off and the chase takes place, culminating in him being run off the road, and CJ puts him to sleep forever. Returning to Caligula's again, Salvatore wants CJ to go to Liberty City and whack the don of the Forelli crime family, Marco Forelli. CJ says that he wants to take Paul, Macker and Rosenberg with him as backup, which Salvatore agrees to, but this is just so he can tell them to get out of Las Venturas. CJ then flies a plane over to Liberty City, arriving at St. Mark's Bistro. He then shoots his way through the Forellis there, managing to carry out the hit on Don Marco, and then returns to Las Venturas. He gets a call from Salvatore as soon as he touches down, and CJ reassures him that he will not be hearing from Ken Rosenberg, Kent Paul, or Macker again. Salvatore tells him to keep a low profile or people will begin to make connections, and that means keeping a distance from each other. CJ also gets a call from Sweet, who is starting to lose hope over ever getting out of prison, with CJ trying to get him to stay positive. But it's now time for the heist. With the crew jumping into the armoured truck they'd stolen, inside the casino thanks to Millie's keycard, using some gas to knock out two guards, Zero activates the explosives CJ had previously placed on the generators at the Sherman Dam, causing the power to go out. CJ jumps onto a forklift and lifts the door to allow the rest of the crew inside. Zero informs them that there are backup generators and that someone is trying to bring them online, so CJ destroys them. Throwing open the safe, the crew steal the money from the casino. They fight their way back to the armoured truck and use police bikes to escort it to the airfield, where CJ acts as the decoy and heads to the roof, using a parachute to jump off it. Escaping the police, he heads to the airstrip, meets up with the crew, and CJ then drives Woozy back to the Four Dragons. After their heist, which netted CJ a cool $100,000, Salvatore Leone calls CJ and he's not happy. He threatens CJ and tells him that he's dead, as well as his family. CJ then goads Salvatore by telling him that he's going to spend the money on some expensive trash. But back to business. A bit later on, Woozy, CJ and Kendall are sat watching auditions as they are hiring talent. Mad Dog shows up and tells CJ that he's recovered and he's going to head back home to his mansion. CJ says that he'll give him a ride home. Problem is that Mad Dog kind of gave away his mansion to the boss of the Vargos gang in exchange for drugs. CJ says they're heading back to Los Santos to take back Mad Dog's mansion from the Vargos. Flying over Los Santos, CJ and a triad team land and storm the mansion, taking out all the gang members inside. Big Popper, the leader, tries to escape via car and is chased down and killed by CJ. CJ calls Ken Rosenberg and says that he needs an accountant and a sound engineer, suggesting that they come to Los Santos. Sometime later, Kent Paul is overseeing the faders, whilst Mad Dog gets to work in reviving his rap career. Unfortunately, the power goes out, and whose voice is heard on the speakers? Mike Torino, and he's asking CJ to meet him outside the mansion. Getting into his car, Torino wants CJ to do another seemingly impossible task: to steal a military jet off an amphibious assault ship. Despite the high level of danger regarding this task, CJ does indeed manage to steal the jet and takes it over to the Sherman Dam and uses it to destroy a number of spy ships, and afterwards he flies it over to the airstrip. Later on, with CJ chilling over at Mad Dog's place, Torino shows up again, telling CJ that he's got one last thing to do and he's out of his life for good. CJ threatens to kill Torino and then gets a call from Sweet. He's being released from prison. He doesn't know why, but CJ says he'll be right there. CJ asks what the job was that he needs doing, and Torino says the job is simply to go pick up his brother, and CJ never sees Mike Torino again.
What's up, bruh?
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing, bruh?
I'm alright, man. Hey, man, we off to our new spot. We got a mansion, Sweet. We've been putting in work, and shit is going well. We got a stake in the casino. We got some insane shit in Fierro. We get into the rap game. Hey, man, let me get you some new clothes. Come on.
New clothes? Nigga, what the fuck is this bullshit?
What you mean, man? What's mine is yours, and you know that.
You never did get it, did you, Carl? I need to go check on things in the hood. Man, that's the problem. You always a perpetrator, running from what's real.
Hey, man, shit's fucked up there. You don't want to be in the hood.
No, that's exactly where I want to be. What you done for our hood?
Man, what the hood done for me? Always dragging me down. Ever since I got out the hood, shit been cracking. That's everybody's dream to get out the hood.
Man, you sound just like Smoke right now.
All right, man. You hard. I'ma show you what's going on in the hood.
Driving Sweet back home, CJ shows him what's happened to the hood ever since the night that Sweet got pinched by the police. A crackhead runs up to them, asking them if they want to buy this blender that the guy stole from their mum's house. It seems that drug addicts have taken over the Grove, but Sweet isn't accepting that, and both he and CJ take back the hood from the ballers. Going to see Mad Dog again, he's watching a press conference of OG Loke, who is apparently about to shoot a music video in Los Santos. Mad Dog listens closely and realizes that OG Loke is using his lyrics from his rhyme book. CJ suggests they make a cameo and drop in unannounced. So driving over and into the country, they chase OG Loke down and confront him at a recording studio. Loke begs for his life, trying to throw a load of money so as to buy his way out of the situation. But some guy is there and introduces himself as Jimmy Silverman. He's from the record label and CJ speaks with him, calling himself Mad Dog's manager. Loke is forced to leave and Mad Dog takes his rhyme book back. CJ goes to check on Sweet, as he was pretty annoyed and stressed out last time CJ saw him. Going to their mum's house, Sweet is there with a crack whore and is about to smoke crack when CJ intervenes. The woman says that CJ is going to have to deal with Beat Up, someone that CJ has had a run-in with recently. Throwing the woman out, he and Sweet go over to Beat Up's house and find out that he's moved out and to the ballers-controlled Glen Park. Driving over there, they spark a gang war in Glen Park, taking out a load of ballers. Confronting Beat Up after taking out his guards, he says that he joined the ballers as he had no choice. He talks about Big Smoke, saying he's crazy and paranoid, thinking that other people in the hood were after his business. Sweet pulls a gun, and Beat Up calls for his crack slave, Big Bear, offering him crack if he kills both Sweet and CJ. He starts to push Beat Up, however, and seeing his way out, he punches Beat Up and tells CJ that he wants back on the team. So Sweet takes Big Bear over to rehab. With the families now having taken back a large amount of territory in Los Santos, CJ is at Sweet's place and he's talking about getting everybody back together. CJ manages to ruin everything Sweet is saying to their crew by saying that he's got stuff going on, and Sweet, after having told everyone else to leave, lays into CJ for shirking his responsibilities. CJ thinks there's life beyond the hood, but Sweet isn't listening. Heading over to baller territory, Idlewood, they start another gang war and take a couple more pieces of territory. After this, and after Sweet has gotten some sleep, CJ goes to Mad Dog's mansion again, and Sweet, Kendall, Caesar, Mac at Mad Dog, and the Truth are there. They're all watching TV as Tenpenny and the late Pulaski have been charged with racketeering, corruption, as well as sexual assault and the possession and distribution of narcotics. More importantly, they've been charged with the murder of Officer Pendlebury, much to CJ's relief as he's now in the clear. They're all there trying to see the sentence that Tenpenny is going to get. Watching the trial though, they're shocked to see that the DA has dropped all charges against Officer Tenpenny. Riots then break out all across Los Santos thanks to this decision. Sweet says they need to go and secure the hood. Driving back to Grove Street whilst all hell is breaking loose, Sweet locks down the hood. Sweet and CJ argue about the hood again, and Caesar shows up, saying that his hood is screwed up and needs to get his old gang back together. CJ and Caesar head out to meet up with some of his guys at Unity Station. On the way, Caesar tells CJ that he wants to ask Kendall to marry him, and CJ gives his blessing. Caesar is not worried about CJ though, he's worried about Sweet. Meeting his crew, they take out loads of Vargos and take back Caesar's hood. After, Sweet has managed to find out where Big Smoke is hiding out, at his crack fortress in East Los Santos. They drive over there whilst the residents in the city continue rioting. Smoke's crack fortress is very well guarded, but after smashing through the wall using a SWAT APC and shooting his way through the gang members inside, consisting of the Ballers, San Fierro Reefer, Vargos and also the Russians, he confronts Big Smoke. Smoke is just casually playing video games whilst all hell has been breaking loose around him, and he says that he does not regret betraying the Grove Street families at all. CJ is able to wound him badly in a gunfight between the two. Big Smoke talks about how everyone will remember his name before dying. Tenpenny, who had been biding his time, approaches CJ armed with a shotgun and orders CJ to stuff it full of cash. He thanks CJ for killing Pulaski for him, and he's on his way to the airport and he's got a plane to catch. And Tenpenny is about to shoot CJ, but he distracts him. Tenpenny then causes an explosion and this starts a fire, and CJ must now get out before the fire completely engulfs the place. Getting outside, Tenpenny is driving a fire truck, and Sweet jumps onto the ladder, desperate to not let him get away. CJ drives after the fire truck and manages to catch Sweet on the hood, and they continue to pursue Tenpenny whilst fighting off rival gang members. This chase ends when Tenpenny drives the fire truck off of a bridge, seriously injuring himself. CJ, Sweet, Kendall, and Caesar stand in front of him, and Tenpenny shouts about how he had kept the hood clean, and he states that he'd do it all again if he could, and he dies. CJ is about to shoot Tenpenny, but Sweet lowers the gun, saying that it currently looks like Tenpenny died in an accident, and that'll keep the heat off the families. The Truth shows up and congratulates CJ for beating the system. Before walking away with the others, CJ mocks Tenpenny and tells him that he'll see him around. Inside CJ, Sweet, and Kendall's mum's house, they talk about their business ventures. And Mad Dog shows up with Rosenberg, Kemp Paul, and Macca, and Mad Dog has his first gold record. Then Macca tells everyone he's getting breast implants, and CJ leaves the house to see what's going on out in the hood. Liberty City, 1998. A coach pulls into Chinatown and off steps Tony Cipriani, a member of the Leone crime family, as he's returning to the city after he had to lay low for a while after he killed what was known in the mafia world as a made man. Anyway, the heat has died off and Tony hails a cab which takes him to the mafia-controlled St. Mark's district. He goes to the mansion of his Don, who is of course Salvatore Leone, who is glad to see him and welcomes him back with open arms. What Tony isn't so happy about is that he will be under one of Sal's capos called Vincenzo, and that he's basically now just a foot soldier in the family. At the end of the day though, Salvatore is his boss, and he does, albeit reluctantly, agree to work under Vincenzo. After this meeting, Tony drives Vincenzo to what will be Tony's place, a safe house. Afterwards, he gets Tony to take him back to his warehouse in Atlantic Keys, and Vincenzo tells him that he'll see him back there very soon. So going to see Vincenzo about a job, he tells Tony they are working in North Chinatown, and they have someone there, a dealer, that hasn't been bringing any cash in, as he's not been working the Chinatown patch. Going to find this dealer, Tony finds him in St. Mark's, and takes him to Chinatown, where he says that he's scared of being whacked by the Sindacos. The Sindacos are dealing, and they run this area of Chinatown, apparently. Going to see Vincenzo again, Tony disturbs him taking a dump. He says they still aren't seeing any money coming in from the dealer. Tony learns from Vincenzo that the dealer's fears were valid, as he has been found killed by the Sindacos. So Tony goes over to Chinatown again, and this time kills a group of Sindaco dealers. With this done and speaking with Vincenzo again, he mentions someone called JD O'Toole. Apparently JD is running a Sindaco-owned gentleman's club in the red light district, but JD wants to join the Leone family. Salvatore says they can use JD's inside knowledge to know what the Sindacos are doing and planning. JD is being watched by a Sindaco family member, so Vincenzo needs him removed so JD can join the Leones. Going to a construction site, which is where the high-ranking Sindaco member is, Tony blasts his way through the site and kills the target and picks up the guy's cell phone. JD calls Tony on it and tells him that he's recorded him killing the Sindacos. Tony was owed money by JD, and he lets him know about it, and JD tells Tony to take the Sindaco's car as payment. After this job, Vincenzo has Tony rescue some Leone crime family members after they screwed up during a raid, and then he has Tony pick up a car full of drugs which attracts a fair bit of heat, and escapes the cops, driving it to a lockup. Tony accuses Vincenzo of setting him up, which doesn't take too kindly to. Tony then quits and hangs upon Vincenzo, taking the car to the Crusher in revenge for Vincenzo screwing him over. Tony then gets a call from his verbally abusive mother, who admonishes him for not coming to see her when he got back. So going to see his ma, she tells him that he didn't even call her whilst he was away, but he said that he couldn't as he was laying low. She compares him to someone called Giovanni Casa, who calls his mother every day. Tony says that Giovanni is a known pervert, but his mother doesn't like that at all. So Tony wants to get proof to show his ma that Giovanni is indeed a pervert, so he grabs a camera and spots Giovanni picking up prostitutes. He follows him to a secluded spot where Giovanni changes into a nappy, or a diaper for all you people across the Atlantic, and starts chasing the prostitutes. Of course, Tony is capturing all this perverted behaviour, and he takes the photos to his ma. She isn't bothered, instead chastising Tony for running around taking pictures of men, saying that despite his perversion, Giovanni is still a better man than him. Later, going to see her again, she says there's no ma for him there anymore, and she calls him a coward, telling him he's scared of the triads. Wanting to prove his mother wrong, Tony kills groups of different triad gangs. She's still not happy, and she mentions a man named Dan Suko, who is a good street racer and loves his mother. She says that Tony's late father would have beaten Suko in a race, and not only that, but he would have also killed him. Again, desperate to win the approval of his mother, Tony goes to one of the street races Suko is to compete in and joins the race. Tony beats Suko, who taunts him, and then Tony chases him down and kills him. But, you've guessed it, Tony's ma is not accepting of him and continues to be verbally abusive. She says that Giovanni, after Tony shamed him by taking pictures of him, has stopped paying his protection money. She's more impressed with Giovanni standing up to her and tells Tony that she wishes he was that brave. Tony is now at the end of his tether, and he goes to Giovanni's place. He is there talking with the LCPD, and Giovanni gets into Tony's car. He drives him out to the sawmill and he kills Giovanni, butchering him, and sends the meat to Giovanni's deli where it will be sold as food. Gross. Mrs. Cipriani is fuming now though. Turning to her, she has completely lost her mind and she has ordered a hit on her own son, telling him that he should die like a real man. Fending off the assassins that his mother ordered, Tony survives the hit. However, Tony will need to keep his eye out for more hitmen that his ma may send after him. Dropping by Paulie's review bar, Tony speaks with JD. JD answers the door in a gimp suit. After some small talk about JD being an experimental lover, Tony demands his money that JD owes him, but he says that they're both getting ripped off. After JD has gone to get changed, JD has Tony drive into various prostitutes that he commands in the area, collecting money from them as well as icing rival pimps. After this job, Tony goes to see JD again, and he's got a tip off that the cops are going to raid the club. What's worse is that Salvatore Leone is inside the club, and of course, he needs to get out of there. So Tony gets into a Leone Sentinel with Salvatore and loses the cops and then drives him back to his mansion. Salvatore then tells Tony that Vincenzo has taken up too much of Tony's time, that he has some work for him. Going to see JD again, he says that he can't come out as he's busy. He talks about a Leone casino in St. Mark's. Apparently the Sindacos are going crazy about it and they're going to hit it very soon. Tony takes a trip over there and sure enough, a bunch of the Sindacos show up and the Leones try to defend the casino. They try to plant a bomb and also use a truck rigged with explosives to blow up the casino, but Tony, despite the truck being stuck in first gear, is able to get it far enough away from the casino so as to protect it. In a final visit to JD, Tony learns that the Sindacos have a place called the Doll's House, which is both a casino and a bordello. It's one of the main sources of income for the Sindacos, so taking that one out would be a crippling blow. There's a local bomb expert known as 8-Ball, who has a shop in Harwood, so Tony goes over there and 8-Ball rigs a car with a bomb. Tony parks the car in the garage and arms it, running away, and this destroys the dollhouse. Going to take up Salvatore's offer of work, Tony arrives at his place and he's in a terrible mood. He says that guys like them are dinosaurs and that it's over for them. See, Sal's got a problem. The corrupt union boss down at the docks, Jane Hopper, is not letting him use the docks to ship a load of drugs into Portland Harbor, so Salvatore sends Tony down there with cash in order to pay her off. But when he gets there, Tony is surrounded by her guys, she takes the cash and walks off. Tony runs from all the men surrounding him and he manages to escape the docks with his life, but Sal is now a little bit poorer with nothing to show for it. Next, Salvatore wants Tony to try and get Hopper's workers on his side, and he's going to do this by way of prostitutes. He has Tony round up the prostitutes and takes them over to the docks to work their magic. Speaking with Salvatore after this, he's still annoyed at the union guys. Some of them are coming round to his way of thinking, but others are a bit more stubborn. Tony heads out in a car and chases down the union bosses that won't budge, scaring them into submission. And with all of them on side, Salvatore will get the drugs into Portland. Later, all Tony's efforts are in vain, as Jane Hopper still isn't budging and she's put out a public statement saying that she's not afraid of the mafia. Salvatore has given Jane Hopper more than enough chances now and tells Tony to take her out. She's still at the radio station, so Tony heads over there. He knocks out her limo driver, takes his clothes and gets into the driving seat. He then drives around the city, scaring the hell out of her until she agrees to do what Salvatore wants. At some point, Tony received a phone call from Salvatore's girl, asking him to meet her at her apartment in St. Mark's. Going there, Tony speaks with her. Her name is Maria, and she's the lady that worked at Caligula's back in Las Venturas. She wants to go shopping, and Tony needs to drive her around Portland. She's not that interested in shopping though, more shoplifting. After visiting and robbing a few stores, Tony is relieved of his duties and drops her off at her apartment. A little bit later though, she's on the phone to her dealer, and she arranges to pick up some drugs, and the dealer is revealed to be a Sindaco. The deal is a trap, as when Maria is in their car to complete the deal, they drive off with her in the car, kidnapping her. Tony gives chase and rams their vehicle until they stop and get out, at which point he kills them and saves Maria. He takes her back to her place and she offers him sex as payment, but he declines. Going to her apartment again a bit later, Maria's reckless and self-destructive behaviour goes on as he finds a letter there stating that she's put herself up as the first prize in a motorcycle race in the city. Salvatore is already paranoid about what she's up to, so Tony needs to prevent her from pimping herself out. He enters the race and wins. Her idea was that Tony would indeed win and she would get to sleep with him, but he's not interested at all, so she leaves with a guy called Wayne. As expected, Maria got herself into yet more trouble as she told Wayne that she was with Tony, leading to her being beaten by him. Tony heads over to Chinatown to find Wayne. He finds him and he tries to flee, and chasing him down, he kills him. Visiting Maria to check up on her, Tony finds that she's close to an overdose. She says that she's in need of something called Zap. She remembers that she stashed some somewhere, and Tony drives to find it with her. Unfortunately, Wayne's gang show up and try to kill Tony, but he's able to defeat them and find Maria's Zap, which was at Salvatore's place all along, so Tony drives her there. With Maria having received her Zap, Tony speaks with Salvatore, who is fresh off the back of a big argument with her over money. He says that the nonsense with the union bosses is now about to bear fruit, as he has a drug shipment coming into the docks. Sal wants Tony there to make sure everything goes to plan. Taking some guys with him as backup, Tony sees that the dealers providing the drugs are actually from the Colombian cartel, led by a guy named Miguel. Before they are able to complete the deal, the police, along with the FBI, show up, and Tony blames Miguel. Tony and his guys gun down Miguel and his mates, taking the drug shipment and delivers them to a lockup in St. Mark's. Tony immediately gets a call from JD. Going to see him, there's a big problem. Salvatore has been kidnapped by the Sindacos, but JD spots one of the guys who kidnapped him. Following him, he drives over to Chinatown, where the guy meets up with some more Sindacos, and Sal is in the trunk. They drive off with him, and Tony is able to force them out of the vehicle, killing them. He then drives Salvatore back home. He promises that he's going to destroy the Sindacos. Another meeting with JD reveals more worrying news. Salvatore is on the rampage after what the Sindacos did to him, and his promise to destroy them is not one he's willing to break. He's on his way to JD's club, so JD, since he's technically still with the Sindacos, has gone into hiding for now. He did manage to hide a sniper rifle on the roof across the street though, so Tony grabs it and is Salvatore's guardian angel. Once all the Sindacos are dead, Salvatore heads into the Review bar and takes it from the Sindacos. The red light district is also Leone territory now too, as the Sindacos have moved on to the next island over, Staunton Island. Visiting the now Leone-owned Review, JD tells Tony that a member of the Sicilian Mafia is coming to Liberty City in order to negotiate a truce between the Leones and the Sindacos. Salvatore, however, is slightly suspicious of what's going on and wants this guy, Torini, tailed in order to find out what that is. Going to Salvatore's, Torini takes off in a helicopter and Tony is able to follow it. It lands in Hepburn Heights, and Torini speaks with a gang called the Diablos. He offers them the district of Hepburn Heights if they help the Sicilians out. He does the same with the Chinatown Triads, telling them they'll be taken care of if they help the Mafia. Tony is spotted by the Triads though, and he has to kill them all whilst Torini is able to escape. Thanks to JD's efforts though, and his help in informing them about Sindaco goings-on, he is allowed to join the Leone family and is to become a made man. Driving him to St. Mark's and dealing with Sindacos on the way, they want to whack JD. Tony drives him over to the car crusher. Mickey Hamfists, who is sat in the back seat, then shoots JD in the back of the head. Salvatore wanted JD out of the way as he didn't trust him, thinking that he would likely betray them the way he betrayed the Sindacos. Tony then dumps the car in the river. Tony receives a call from Vincenzo. He says that he feels bad about everything that happened and asks Tony to stop by his place. Despite feeling like this is a trap, Tony goes there anyway and Vincenzo isn't there. He says he's down at the Portland docks as a big shipment has come in. Tony goes there, boards the ship, and is confronted by a number of Vincenzo's guys who are all armed with chainsaws. Tony is, however, able to kill them, including Vincenzo. Dropping by Salvatore's, he tells Tony that the Diablos are attacking Leone turf in both the Red Light District and Hepburn Heights. Defending it, Tony speaks with Salvatore on the phone and tells him they'll likely lose that turf. Salvatore is determined to hold on to it though. Shortly after this, Salvatore tells Tony he has a load of money that needs picking up at Callahan Point from a warehouse. With only Tony trusted to carry out this task, he goes to Callahan Point, but there are some triads there who have placed dynamite next to some fuel tanks. The resulting explosion destroys the warehouse, and Tony, killing the triads, has to run into the burning wreckage to retrieve the cash before it's lost. Managing to grab it all, Tony returns to Salvatore's place with it. Things have gotten pretty heated now, and Salvatore is really paranoid, even pointing a gun at Tony despite everything he's done. He thinks Tony has been saying stuff about him. He thinks the mayor is after him, and that he'll be blamed for everything, all the chaos going on in the city, so they need to leave Portland Island. Salvatore asks Tony to drive him out to the ferry terminal in Harwood. They arrive and are set on by the FBI and the police straight away. They realise they'll need another way to get out of this part of the city, and Salvatore tells Tony to head straight for Callahan Bridge, which is still being built. They then jump the gap, and have now arrived on Staunton Island. Salvatore tells Tony of a safe house owned by the Leone family in the Newport district, so going there, Salvatore can now lie low for a bit. Later, Salvatore calls Tony, asking him to go to a payphone as he doesn't trust cell phones. He says that the mayor who is trying to pin things on him, Mayor Hole, is taking a run in nearby Belleville Park. He'll be with his security detail and will be well guarded. Taking him out, Tony grabs his phone and takes it to Salvatore so he can see who the mayor has been talking to. Not long after, Tony finds a letter in the safe house from Salvatore. It says a few of the guys will call on him later. Sure enough, exiting the safe house, he finds Mickey Hamfists waiting there. A slightly nervous Tony gets into the car, and in Bedford Point, Tony walks down an alleyway and Leone men are standing at either end of it. Fearing an ambush, Tony sees Sal come out of the building and they head inside. Sal makes him a made man. After, Salvatore calls him about the Mayor Hole business and says that the mayor had been talking to the other rival mafia family, the Forellis. Now that Mayor Hole is gone, Sal is going to try and take control of City Hall. He says he knows some big shot businessman that is willing to do anything to get into office, and Sal has told this guy that Tony is going to help him win the election. Tony's mother calls him too. She's proud of him having become a somebody in the mafia, saying that she's also called off the hit squads. How generous. Going to see this big shot businessman is none other than Donald Love, who, after serving under his mentor Avery Carrington, has ended up in Liberty City. He's a happy chappy and tries to dance with Tony, talking about some sort of morgue party and that a corpse is making its way to the pathology lab. Tony is to head out and steal a hearse with the corpse inside. Donald wants that corpse. Taking the hearse, Tony loses the police pursuers and delivers the hearse to Donald Love. Speaking with Donald again at a construction site, Tony asks how his campaign against the other mayoral candidate, Miles O'Donovan, is going, but Donald says that it's going down to the wire and that every vote is going to count. These are marginal voting areas that need to be hit, so Tony drives Donald's campaign van and drives to these marginal locations and destroys O'Donovan's campaign vans and spreads hate and slander about O'Donovan at the same time. Next, Donald needs Tony to go a bit further and kill Miles O'Donovan's campaigners, as he has many people canvassing for him. Donald is eating some very questionable meat that may or may not be human, but it definitely is. Since Donald Love is in fear for his life, Tony heads out and kills the campaigners. Following this, Donald Love tells Tony the Forellis, who are backing O'Donovan, have a share in the company that make the voting machines. He suggests that Tony go down to the factory and cause these machines to malfunction. Tony grabs a flamethrower and torches a load of fake ballot papers, along with destroying the voting machines. Later, Donald Love is now finally going to get his hands dirty, and then Tony needs to protect him whilst he is out campaigning. He's worried the Forellis are going to try and take him out, but his fears do indeed become reality when the Forellis attempt to ambush him. Tony kills them all and gets Donald to safety whilst being attacked by more Forellis. After this, Donald says it's time for Plan B, since the exit polls are very close. Donald is resorting to more dirty tactics, the same as the Forellis though, to be fair, and he suggests they replace some of the uncounted votes, replacing them with their own. Following the ballot van, Tony sees votes get offloaded to a courier, and killing him, Tony is able to retrieve the uncounted ballots. And this happens all over Staunton Island. Although some may get through, Tony does all he can to rig the vote. So, going to the cathedral in Bedford Point, Tony encounters a priest in a confession box who goes by Father Ned. The priest tells him that he needs to do the Lord's dirty work, and someone is fabricating doping reports in relation to some of the nation's top sports stars, and Tony needs to stop it. Managing to get hold of an FBI car, Tony drives over to the location of the informant, who is set to meet his FBI contact, an agent known only as John O. Tony says that John O couldn't make it, but then John O shows up, and the informant runs off. Tony chases the informant down and kills him, grabbing the fabricated reports, and delivers the reports to a drop point at the Liberty Tree newspaper. Later on, the report makes it out anyway.
Earlier today, an authoritative report was leaked to us disclosing a drug scandal amongst some of the nation's leading athletes. The president has confirmed heads will roll. Tune in later for an exclusive report from our award-winning reporter, Ned Berner.
Father Ned has him do other jobs too, in order to redeem himself, by retrieving stolen jewels so Ned can return them and causing chaos on Staunton Island whilst using a fire truck. And it turns out that Father Ned is the reporter Ned Berner, who is posing as a priest in order to get Tony to do things around the city so that he could be the one to get the scoop. He even had Tony kill 3 celebrities because they refused to give interviews to the Liberty Tree, or more specifically, to Ned. But back to more pressing matters. Meeting Salvatore Nagetti in Rockford, he says that they're about to go and have a chat with the late Mayor Hole's assistant about the Forellis. Driving the boat, Tony tells the assistant to go with them, but the Mayor's Secret Service detail arrive. With the assistant in their boat, Tony fights off the Secret Service, and once they're dealt with, the assistant tells Sal and Tony that Franco Forelli, the don of the Forelli crime family, was tasked by the Sicilian Mafia to start a war between all 3 families in Liberty City, then the Sicilian Mafia would come in and take over. Except that Franco isn't aware that the Sicilian Mafia actually have ulterior motives. Franco pressured Mayor Hole into bringing Salvatore up on charges, hence why he tried to have him arrested at the ferry terminal. Having been told by Salvatore to head to the public phone booth in Torrington, Tony heads over there and speaks to him. He's caught in the middle of a gunfight between the Forellis and the Sindacos, who are now at war with one another, and he's stuck in the middle of it. Tony needs to rescue him. So he goes and saves his boss, driving him to safety. Having saved Salvatore, he speaks with him on the phone a bit later, and they need to hit back at the Forellis, and he has a van nearby. Finding it, Tony learns that shortly, Paulie Sindaco will be meeting with the Forellis because the two families are attempting to discuss a truce. The van will allow Tony to control Paulie's car, so Tony uses the car to run over and kill all the Forellis there, making it look like the Sindacos do not want a truce at all. Salvatore calls Tony again, and it appears that a wise guy has discovered that the Forelli and Sindaco war is happening because it's being pushed by the Sicilian mafia so they can take over the city. Franco doesn't know that part yet, remember, and since the mob war between the two families is actually of benefit to the Leone family, Salvatore wants it to stay that way. Tony goes and rubs out this wise guy so as to keep Franco in the dark. At some point, Tony got a call from Salvatore in regard to meeting a contact in the park in a spot called Espatria, in order to pile the pressure on the Sindacos. He meets a guy by the name of Leon McCaffrey, a corrupt police officer. At first, Tony's not interested in what McCaffrey has to say. That is until he says that they are off to go and meet some Sindacos. Driving over to Sindaco territory, McCaffrey then drops Tony off and gives him a gun, telling him to adapt and survive before driving off. Killing a load of Sindacos and getting their attention, McCaffrey picks him up, and Tony needs to wipe out any who are pursuing them. With helicopters joining the party, McCaffrey flakes and says that this is getting all a bit too high profile for him. Losing the Sindacos, he drops Tony off, telling him that he'll see him around. After McCaffrey felt the heat had died down a bit, he met with Tony again. And it's time for another gang-related ambush, this time involving the Yardis, who have their eyes on Forelli turf. Tony jumps onto a Forelli bike and lures a bunch of the Forellis to a hospital in Rockford, where the Yardis are waiting, and they all take the Forellis out. In Espatria, McCaffrey is speaking with another police officer called Ray Machowski, who is also his partner, and when Tony arrives, he and Leon depart saying they're off to fight organised crime. What this really looks like, though, is McCaffrey giving Tony a katana and telling him to slaughter a bunch of Forellis in Belleville Park. The fun doesn't stop there, though, as later on, McCaffrey says the Yardis are having issues with holding onto the turf they've acquired in Newport, so Tony helps them out. McCaffrey then wants one final thing done. He's found out that the Forellis have been stockpiling weapons and moving them to Fort Staunton, so Tony destroys the trucks transporting the weapons, doing serious damage to the Forellis. Donald Love then calls, sounding rather panicked. Going to his offices, he calls again and tells Tony that O'Donovan has evidence of connections to Salvatore. He says they're screwed. Calming down a bit, Donald says that one of his men has been following the guy with this evidence. Meeting Donald Love's contact in Newport, he points out the place where the evidence will be, and Tony fights his way inside. Finding the van with the evidence inside it, he drives to a drop-off point at Donald's place. Tony gives Donald the good news that the mess has been cleared up, but Donald shows Tony it's over, as O'Donovan has beaten him in the race to become mayor of Liberty City thanks to Don's affiliation with the Leones. Tony leaves just as Love is shouting about him being bankrupt now. A phone call from Salvatore is cause for concern though, as he informs Tony that he's been arrested and jailed and asks him to visit him as he's got some business that needs taken care of. So posing as Sal's lawyer, he visits him in jail, and Sal says both the Forellis and the Sindacos are in need of a good kicking. Securing some backup in the form of the Southside Hoods, Tony gets revenge for Salvatore by killing more Forellis who are trying to take over the Southside Hoods turf. But that isn't all, as Salvatore also wants Paulie Sindaco killed too. This has created a power vacuum though, and now the Yakuza are trying to move into what was the Sindaco territory of Torrington. As the Sindacos no longer have a presence in Liberty City, the war between them and the Forellis is over. Salvatore isn't too pleased about this new threat. As well as fighting the Triads and Diablos, they now potentially have to deal with the Yakuza as well. What's more is that Salvatore is being refused bail. Sal is wanting to strike now and tells Tony to destroy weapons that the Yakuza have been stockpiling as they prepare to take over the city. So going over to the Yakuza compound, Tony kills the gang members inside, steals a tank, and destroys it. Tony's heard from Donald Love again, so he goes to see him. He's let himself go, slightly. He calls it a temporary blip though. Tony just wants to leave and he tells Donald that him not winning the election was his own fault. He says 10% of something he says is really big. Driving him over to the airport, Donald sees that his ex-mentor, Avery Carrington, has flown into Liberty City from Vice City. Donald says that he's working for the Pan-Atlantic Corporation, which is a company with ties to the Colombian cartel. Donald wants Tony to steal Avery's plans to acquire land. That requires killing him too. With the old man dead, Tony grabs the plans and gives them to Donald. Unfortunately, a reporter has photos of them killing Avery Carrington, so Donald needs him out of the way too. This reporter is none other than Ned Burner. Tracking him down at the cathedral, Tony scares Ned into giving him the photos. Going to his lockup, however, he's tricked Tony. The The photos are not in there. Ned is a sneaky guy though and does a runner, so Tony chases him down and kills him. Crafty old Donald, however, did a deal with the Pan-Atlantic Corporation and stands to make quite a lot of money. He wants to celebrate with another morgue party, so tasks Tony with obtaining the corpses of Ned Burner and Avery Carrington. They grab Avery Carrington's body by stealing an ambulance, and Donald makes it clear that he plans to eat Avery's body. Dropping it at the airport, Tony goes to grab Ned's body, which is in a hearse. Stealing that, Tony drops that corpse off at the airport too. Tony then receives a call from a woman, along with an invitation for a meeting. Tony goes to her apartment and Toshiko Kassen introduces herself. She is Yakuza. She says that she wishes to destroy and humiliate her husband Kazuki. So Tony gets to work in dismantling the Yakuza operations her husband is in charge of, such as stealing arms shipments and selling them to Phil Cassidy, who has moved there from Vice City, and destroying cash being transported to the Yakuza compound. Finally, Toshiko says that Kazuki will soon realize that she is involved in the sabotage of his operations, so in order to humiliate him some more, she wants Tony to take her to the opera, which will be massively humiliating for him, as his men will know about it. Getting to the opera house, the Forellis unexpectedly show up and Tony has to kill them. He then drives Toshiko away from there, but they are pursued by more hit squads. Losing the Forelli hit squads, a member of the Yakuza sees them. They have now gotten Kazuki's full attention, as he's apparently coming to kill both Toshiko and Tony. Tony wants to get the jump on him and goes to Belleville, where Kazuki is in the process of gathering his men, according to Toshiko. Killing his way through Kazuki's men, Tony confronts him and the two of them fight, with Tony able to defeat Kazuki. Returning Kazuki's sword to Toshiko as the proof of his death, she realizes that she's messed up, and she throws herself out of the window. Tony then gets a call from Donald Love again, who needs a demolition job doing. Tony needs to clear a small section of land in Fort Staunton. So in order to do this, Tony visits 8-Ball, who puts together 3 large bombs at the cost of $20,000, which Tony has to pay, and drives them over to Fort Staunton, parks underneath in the tunnels, and causes an almighty explosion.
Taskmaster has begun to bore me.
Unfortunately though, Donald Love's troubles are not over. The Colombian cartel know all about what he did and are coming to kill him unless he pays them for their silence. Leaving what is Donald's new mansion, Tony and Donald are attacked by the cartel, but Tony fights them off. With Donald needing to leave Liberty City for a bit, Tony takes him to Francis International Airport, and Donald takes off in his private jet, which still has the bodies of Avery Carrington and Ned Burner on board. With Donald Love gone and everything else dealt with, there's just one thing left to do, and that is to protect Salvatore Leone's prison transport. The Sicilian Mafia attack it, and fending them off, Salvatore makes it to court, where he is found not guilty. Salvatore then heads home to St. Mark's, and meeting him there later, he reveals that he's been talking to the Sicilians and they wish to make peace. Salvatore told them to do one, essentially, which Tony questions. Salvatore wants to go and see the new mayor, who of course is O'Donovan. He hopes that Mr. O'Donovan will drop the charges against him, so they head to City Hall. It seems the Sicilians are there, and Tony takes them out while Sal goes to grab the mayor. He's not there though, as the Sicilians took him already. They rush to the pier and spot Massimo Torini having taken the mayor hostage. Chasing them in another boat, Tony fires on any boats chasing them, and they end up at the lighthouse. Fighting their way to the top, Torini is there. Torini manages to board a chopper in order to escape, but Tony shoots it down. The mayor is then brought before Salvatore at his place. The mayor basically realizes now that he is in Salvatore Leone's pocket. Going to Tony's Mars restaurant, Sal's uncle is there, and he's there on behalf of the Sicilians to ensure that a peace is now brokered between the Sicilian Mafia and the Leone family. It's now 2001. After Catalina had dumped CJ for a new boyfriend, Claude, the two had gone on a crime spree across America, robbing banks, and by 2001 they'd reached Liberty City. All is going well as they just robbed a bank along with another man. However, when Claude emerges from the bank, Catalina kills the other man and shoots Claude, badly wounding him, and he's left for dead whilst Catalina speeds off with the cash in their getaway vehicle, driven by Miguel, who is the cartel member Tony had dealings with. Claude is then arrested and is later placed onto prison transport, taking him to jail along with 8-Ball, who had been arrested himself after a cartel ambush in which his hands were badly burned. Claude has been sentenced to 10 years in prison. Whilst they're being transported via the now and newly constructed Callahan Bridge from Staunton Island to Portland Island, the truck is brought to a stop by the cartel, who free an elderly prisoner. Claude and 8-Ball take this opportunity to escape the truck too, and a massive explosion wipes out the bridge. Jumping into a conveniently placed car, Claude drives himself and 8-Ball over to the red light district, as he knows somewhere they can get a change of clothes. After this, 8-Ball takes Claude to go and see one of the Leone Mafia guys, Luigi Gottarelli. He runs what used to be the Sindaco's club, which the Leones took over and have now turned into a strip club called Sex Club 7. Mickey Hamfists emerges, and soon after Luigi does too, telling Claude that he's got work for him, and this involves picking up one of his girls, Misty, from the hospital and driving her back to the club. And after doing this for Luigi, he wants Claude to whack a dealer who's been dealing a new drug called Spank to his girls. After this, Luigi wants Claude to drive Misty over to Salvatore's son Joey's garage over in Trenton, so he picks her up and drives her there, where he meets Joey Leone, and Joey offers him some work. Having now somewhat gained the trust of Luigi, he wants Claude to kill 2 Diablo dealers, and you'll recall that in 1998, the Diablos had gained control of the Hepburn Heights district. The 2 dealers in question have been pimping on Luigi's turf. Having killed them, Luigi needs a load of his girls dropped off at what's known as the Fuzz Ball, which is the policeman's ball. He needs some entertainment. Getting as many of them there as he can, Claude goes to Joey's garage to see him about some work. It's time to hit the Forellis, and one of them owes Joey money and won't pay, so Claude is to take out Mike Lips Forelli, who will more than likely be at St. Mark's Bistro. Yep, the same place CG went out to take Marco Forelli for Salvatore. Taking Mike Lips' car to 8-Ball's bomb shop in Harwood, the car is fitted with a bomb, and Claude parks it in the spot it was in before. Mike Forelli emerges and the car explodes with him sat in it. Hit completed. Joey also had Claude get rid of a guy called Chunky Lee Chong, who was pushing the cartel's Spank out onto the streets through his food stall in Chinatown, and he has him do a job running armoured trucks off of the road and stealing them for the cash inside, and he then meets Tony Cipriani. Claude drives Tony over to Chinatown as he needs to go and collect some protection money from a laundry there. He's chased from the premises though and asks to be driven to his Mars restaurant, and he tells Claude that if he's looking for work, to come see him. Prior to leaving Joey's, he told Claude that he had been planning a big job and needs a getaway driver, and returning to his garage, Tony first has Claude get rid of a body by taking it to the car crusher in Harwood. Problem is that the body is a Forelli, and the Forellis are sat watching the car to ambush whoever comes to pick it up. But it's time for Joey's big job. They're carrying out a bank robbery. Picking up his guys, Claude drives them to the bank, waits for them to grab the cash, and drops them off at their hideout after losing the cops. Now taking up Tony's offer of work, Claude goes to see him, and his ma is still giving him the tough treatment. He wants to get back at the Triads for messing with him, so he has Claude go and destroy their laundry vans. After this, Tony leaves a note telling Claude that the laundry has agreed to pay now, and Claude needs to go and collect the protection money. He does so, and it's a trap, but Claude is able to get out there and gets the money back to the restaurant. Finally, Salvatore has called a meeting. So after collecting Joey in the limousine, and after picking up Tony and Luigi, Claude drives them over to Salvatore's place over in St. Mark's, despite the Triads trying to kill them. Claude is introduced to the Don, who wants him to look after his girl, who of course is Maria. She wants Claude, who she now calls Fido, to take her over to see someone called Chico so she can get some party treats. After she's got her treats, Claude drives Maria to a party down at the docks and waits for her to be done. However, SWAT show up for a drugs raid and everyone runs outside, so Claude has to lose the cops and get Maria back to Salvatore's. But now that Claude has earned Salvatore's trust, he now wants him to do some more important jobs for him. He talks about the cartel and their production of Spank. They're making it in the city, but they don't know where. The cartel also seem to be one step ahead of the Leone Mafia, which means they've got a rat. Since this guy, known as Curly Bob, is working the bar at Sex Club 7, Luigi's club, and has been throwing around a suspicious amount of cash, Claude is to tail him. Following Curly Bob's taxi to the Portland docks, Claude sees him meet with someone. To his surprise, it's Catalina and Miguel. She hands over some Spank to Curly Bob, who tells her and Miguel that the Leones are fighting both the Triads and the Forellis. Salvatore is now becoming dangerous and paranoid, suspecting everybody. Catalina and Miguel leave, and Claude whacks Curly Bob. In the meantime, Tony needs more work done in order to show the Triads who's boss. So, reading another letter from Tony at the restaurant, it says that he wants him to hit 3 Triad warlords, so he takes some Mafia guys with him and exacts revenge on the warlords. Finally, in the last step of Tony's war against the Triads, he wants their fish factory gone. He says Claude needs to pick it up in a dust cart that 8-Ball has rigged with a bomb, which is on a timer. Going to pick it up, Claude delivers it to the factory. The factory goes boom, and this does massive damage to the Triads. Claude goes to see Salvatore again, and they've discovered where the cartel are producing their Spank. It's on a container ship, right where Curly Bob met Catalina and Miguel. It needs to get gone, and Salvatore offers to make Claude a made man. Going to see 8-Ball and covering the expenses for this job, a whopping $100,000, they both set out for the ship. Since his hands are still messed up, Claude will need to cover 8-Ball with the sniper rifle whilst he gets on board and plants the explosives. Taking out all the cartel members on board, 8-Ball plants the bombs and the ship blows up in spectacular fashion, then sinking into the dock. The Colombian Spank production has been dealt a major blow. Going to see a very pleased Salvatore again, he congratulates Claude on a job well done. He says that he needs one last job doing before they can celebrate, and that is to take a car to the crusher, the inside of which is covered in brains. Approaching the car though, Claude gets a pager message from Maria, who claims that the car is a trap and to meet her over at Callahan Point.
Listen, Salvatore thinks that we're going behind his back, so he was offering you to the cartel in order to make a deal. I couldn't let him do that. I mean, the worst thing is, it's all my fault because I told him we were an item. Don't ask me why, I don't know. Look, you're a marked man on the Mafia turf, and I've got to get out of here too. I've seen too much killing, too much blood. Look, this is a friend of mine, okay? She's an old friend, and it's so good. She's someone we could trust.
Come on, enough of the speeches. We better get out of here before we get more hysterical Italians wanting less friendly reunions.
Using the boat to cross over to Staunton Island, Asuka tells Claude to lie low at a condo the Yakuza own, and to come see her after he's gotten settled in. Now a marked man over on Portland Island, Claude goes to see his only ally, the Yakuza, as Asuka has some work for him. Firstly, she wants him to kill Salvatore Leone, as proof that his ties to the Mafia are truly broken. She says that Salvatore will be at Luigi's club, so going over to the red light district via the newly repaired Callahan Bridge, Claude successfully assassinates Salvatore. With trust now established between Claude and the Yakuza, he returns to Asuka, who calls him an efficient killer. She introduces him to her brother Kenji, who tells Claude that he has some work for him too and to drop by his casino. Asuka reveals to Claude once Kenji is gone that the Mafia are trying to track Claude down, and the Leones have a few spies located around Staunton Island. These spies are interfering with the Yakuza's ability to carry out their own work, so they need to be taken out. Doing this, Asuka has Claude help them with their operations, carrying out jobs such as killing a snooping and perverted reporter and killing an undercover cop called Tanner, who is one of their drivers. Claude is also to answer a load of payphones around Staunton Island within a time limit, and he meets Ray Machowski, who you'll remember was Leon McCaffrey's partner. He's very paranoid and asks Claude if he was followed. He says that internal affairs have been sniffing around him as he's lost a few partners. He wants someone to help him out, but for now, Claude goes to see Asuka's brother Kenji at his casino. Kenji says that a high-ranking member of the Yakuza is in custody, awaiting trial, and he needs busting out. So rigging a police car with a bomb, Claude uses it to blow a hole in the wall and drives the high-ranking member over to a dojo. Kenji then has Claude carry out odd jobs such as stealing cars, ambushing drug deals, and also has him stirring up trouble with the Diablos and the Yardis, who are pushing Spank on the streets for the cartel. But it's now time to go and see what the crooked cop, Ray, needs help with. Turns out that Ray needs a problem dealt with, and that problem is Leon McCaffrey. He's making a deal with the state in exchange for evidence against Ray, and he's under armed protection. So Claude goes there and burns the place to the ground. McCaffrey flees, but Claude kills him. Returning to Ray, however, there's a problem. Remember Phil Cassidy? Well, he's in trouble, as the cartel are after him. So driving out to Rockford, Claude meets with Phil, who tells him to arm up as the Colombians will be there any minute now. Having helped Phil repel the Colombians, he offers Claude a discount on any weapons he buys from him in the future. Ray has Claude help him with something interesting next. Donald Love got caught eating his favourite meal at one of his morgue parties, so Claude needs to go and obtain the photo evidence before the prosecution can build their case. Ramming the prosecution's truck means that Claude is able to get this evidence, meaning that Love is in the clear. Given that Ray is very paranoid about, well, everything, he thinks his new partner is a rat, so he needs him out of the way. He'll be out fishing somewhere in Portland Harbour, so taking a boat out there, Claude spots him redneck fishing. Killing the guy, and with Ray's new partner out of the way, seems there's an issue with his old one, McCaffrey. It has become clear that McCaffrey survived, and he's being transferred by ambulance to the police headquarters. He needs to be permanently rubbed out before he can get there. Ramming the ambulance causes McCaffrey to fly out of the back in his full body cast, and on running him over, he is now finally killed. Given that Claude helped Donald Love with that problem he had, he has a few other issues that he needs help with. He says that a valuable resource, an old Oriental gentleman, has been kidnapped by the cartel and are trying to extort funds from Donald despite them already having agreed a deal for the old man's release. Going over to Espatria, having stolen the cartel cruiser, Claude clears the cartel compound and secures the old man. He takes him back to Donald Love's building where he has more work for him. Love's aims once again come down to property development. He says that one surefire way for him to achieve his aims, just like Avery did, is to get someone to start a good old-fashioned gang war between the Yakuza and the cartel. He wants Claude to kill Kenji Kassan, but to use a cartel cruiser in doing so. Doing this, and with the cartel getting the blame for the hit on Kenji, Love's focus is now shifted onto valuable commodities that are hard to import. He says that this evening, an aircraft will be flying over the bay and will be dropping packages into the water. Grabbing a boat, Claude shadows the plane and collects these valuable packages for Donald, returning them to him after shaking off the police. Unfortunately, these packages are actually decoys, and the real ones are on the plane, which is now at Francis International Airport in Shoreside Vale. The port authorities have been stripping the plane down, but Donald managed to pay them off. Going to the plane, the cartel are there, but upon wiping them all out, Claude is able to look in the plane, finding the packages are gone. There's a truck there which has the logo for Pan-Atlantic Construction on the side, so going to the construction site where Fort Staunton used to be before Tony blew it up, Claude mows his way through the cartel and ascends via the site's elevator. At the top, he comes face to face with Catalina and Miguel. She's surprised to see Claude, to say the least. Miguel hands over the package, but Catalina, cold as ice, shoots Miguel in the back and makes her escape. Asuka shows up too. She mentions that she has a score to settle with the cartel for killing her brother, obviously not knowing that it was Claude who did it, and she begins to try to extract info from Miguel by way of torture. Returning to Donald Love with the package, he needs Claude to escort the old Oriental man to get an artifact that he's bought authenticated. So Claude follows the vehicle he's in. Sure enough, the cartel try to take the old guy out, but he gets to the destination unharmed thanks to Claude protecting him. After this, once the artifact has been authenticated, the old man needs to get back to Donald's building, but the police are watching the warehouse in Shoreside Vale. Claude goes over there and keeps the police busy for a few minutes, giving the old guy a window to slip out unnoticed. Returning to Donald Love, however, it does appear that he is gone. Ray Machowski, meanwhile, is freaking out. He's way over his head now. The CIA have an interest in this spank business, so naturally they don't want people messing with the cartel. Ray is now a marked man and needs to get out of Liberty City. He's booked a flight, so Claude drives Ray over to Francis International Airport, avoiding the bridge since the CIA have agents waiting there. Ray makes his flight. As a thank you, he leaves a number of items for Claude in his garage, including a bulletproof Patriot. Going over to see how Asuka is getting on with Miguel, it appears that he's told her some pretty useful stuff. Catalina is so scared that Claude is going to kill her and get revenge on her that she's placed 3 death squads all over Liberty City who have been tasked with hunting him down. Claude heads out and lures these death squads over to Shoreside Vale, where Asuka has her men waiting, and they take out these cartel death squads. Asuka also manages to find out from Miguel that the cartel are pushing spank through coffee stalls around the whole of the city, so Claude goes out and destroys these stalls. Having dealt a blow to the cartel's distribution network, Claude goes to see Asuka again, and Maria is there having some fun and torturing Miguel. Miguel has revealed there's a plane coming into the airport in a couple of hours and it's full of spank. To avoid attracting the attention of airport security, Claude gets hold of a boat, driving it over to the edge of the runway. He shoots the plane down and grabs the spank that it dropped. On taking it back to the construction site though, Claude ascends to the top and finds both Asuka and Miguel dead, with Maria missing. A note is attached to Miguel telling Claude to bring $500,000 to Donald Love's former villa in Cedar Grove. Having gotten the $500K, Claude heads over to the villa, which is now owned by the cartel, and hands it over to Catalina. Naturally, she doesn't honor the deal, takes the money and Maria, escaping and leaving the cartel to kill Claude. He fights his way out of there though and sees her chopper landing at the Cochrane Dam, so he fights his way through cartel members there, managing to shoot down Catalina's chopper as it takes off. He has rescued Maria, and the two walk up the stairs of the dam. As Maria is chatting on and on and on about how much she loves Claude, a single gunshot rings out followed by silence, and the game then ends. And that's it for the entire story from Grand Theft Auto's 3D universe. A pretty long one, but I did what I could to simplify it by cutting out missions that didn't really matter. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe if you aren't already, but for now, take care, and I will see you in the next one.